Alright, why don't we open the meeting? And Chief Gamache, I know you've got training in a little bit, so why don't you start us off?
Did I bring a working pen? Yes.
I got an extra one.
You need one?
No, I said if you need one, I got
Oh,
an extra.
thanks.
Well, good afternoon, I'll be brief today, 153 incidents here to date, noteworthy incidents, since last time we met, we had a serious accident on Shaker Road in the middle of the night, just north of Shaker Village. Thankfully, this, moderate injuries to the sole operator, he said he's swerving to avoid deer. Then we responded to a structure fire a couple weeks ago in Chichester, assisted Chichester in a fire, so. Under the fire prevention, last week we did the water drill at Shaker Village. We operated the hydrants and the fire pump that haven't been probably operated in a long, long time. The director and the maintenance person for Shaker Village were with us. The drill went great. Everything worked as is, and we come to an agreement. I researched the agreement that we can use that water source if we get any fire in that area. So,
Great, okay.
It's really good. We're just trying to make that an annual thing, and they're on board at Shaker Village to us doing that.
Good, thank you.
This month I've been doing preschool daycare inspections that are required by the state, all of them in town, and place of assembly permits, they do this month for all the town buildings, I'm working on those, libraries next. Town fireworks are July 5th, I will have staff in detail and 2 firefighters on duty from the time the fire trucks roll, from the time the fireworks roll into the property around 3 o'clock. Until about an hour after the show to make sure there's no spot fires or anything like that, so they'll be able to respond to calls in the immediate area, and I'll be up for that display as well. So we'll have 3 people on duty for that.
Great,
One member recently completed paramedic training, that's a pretty big accomplishment. He's an active member of the department, so another paramedic level person in the department. One long-time 17-year member just separated from service last month. And we're down on numbers, so I put it on the newsletter, but for young aspiring or anybody that looking to get involved in their, helping in their community, we encourage people to reach out so we can have a discussion, so. The Pickard Road hydrant, we're working with the state wetlands project, state wetlands to get the proper permits before we put a shovel in the ground. I had the owner of the property in my office 2 weeks ago, and we're on the same page, and so we hope to get that done sooner rather than later. Our NRIS, which is our reporting platform nationally, is a fall 25 rollout. I've been working on that on the side. We're participating next Thursday in the big truck day at the library. We enjoy doing that stuff, interacting with the local children and all this stuff, and talking to people. So that's what they really look forward to, and we appreciate the invite. So a year from now, it's the new engine that we purchased 2 years ago is scheduled to be completed. Probably delivered a month after that, but so we've taken the next step in preparation. So in theory, everything that's on the 1996 HME engine 3, that it will be replacing, in theory, everything on there is going on to the new engine. So we've gone through and see what's functional, what's not, what needs to be replaced. I probably $30,000 in grants with hose, nozzles, and radios. It was all bought with grant money, so that's nothing, it won't cost a ton of anything. That's sitting on my shelf, ready to be put in a new fire truck, but
Great,
things
thank
like
you.
fire extinguishers, axes, and stuff like that. If we can put it on a new engine, we're gonna. If it's non-functional, we're just gonna buy a new one, so, and I do have a line for that, and as far as, in the bond as well.
Yeah.
So, if I can, the bond was $850, so, and the fire truck was $800. So I had that 50 to work with, but if I could purchase some of that end of the year budget money and save some of that 50, that's what I'm looking to do. So,
great. And just quickly, Chief, I know if you strip the old engine and move everything you can onto the new one, what happens to the old?
we haven't
Body.
had the discussion yet.
Oh, okay.
We haven't had discussion, and probably by the end of the year.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, probably early next year, I'll have a recommendation for you on what we'll do, the old engine.
Okay, great.
And we were down the river last week, weather is gonna get warmer eventually, it'll stop raining on Saturday, so people are gonna start using our beaches. 5 years ago, when town purchased some signs, because when we had the 3 drownings in 2020, one of the things that delayed response is people didn't know where they were. So these signs on the 4 beach access points to the river, say a quarter of this and actually name the beach, so there's no delay there. And we put some life-saving equipment at each beach as well, so that stuff was put out last week, so we're ready to go.
Do you happen to have any pictures of the signs and equipment, or
I thought I sent that to you for the newsletter. I did.
This month?
No, last month's newsletter, it wasn't.
I saw the sign, I saw the verbiage that it was going, but I didn't see any pictures attached, but I'll look again.
Okay, yeah.
All right,
So, yeah, there was a picture on that, but if you didn't get it, you know, I'd be happy to.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. That's all I have, unless you have any questions.
No, thank you. Thanks as always.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Those for you too, I've already got hers.
Thank you.
Those finally came in.
Oh, you got it,
Thank you.
yeah,
These are for you.
cool.
Okay, so last month we had 7 incidents, 1 arrest, 1 accident, 85 citations, 392 calls for service. We executed 3 search warrants. This week we're going to the school. I don't know who else is coming besides you. Are you guys all going?
Yes, yeah, I
Yes.
think, I don't know,
Thursday?
Yeah,
Thursday,
morning.
correct,
No,
8:45.
8:45.
Last day of school, I'll be there.
Okay, cool, good. So I don't know if you've been copied, but the voting has been very spirited with,
I haven't seen any of it.
yeah, it's
Yeah, I haven't
good.
seen any of it.
So, I'm gonna be out of town Wednesday, when I get home Wednesday night, I'll tally up, and then you and I can do our thing Thursday morning, so. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, as soon as I get that, I'll email my contact.
Yeah, I love the entries, I think the kids just did a great job, so.
I'm hoping we can get those actually done this year.
Yeah, now, but while I'm thinking about it, you're going to take the original winning one with you?
Yeah, I got, cause I
Perfect,
gotta
okay.
scan it,
Yes,
get it, and get it emailed.
I figured as much, I've got them at home in a safe place, so,
Either I take the original or you scan it and email it to me, either
why
one.
don't you take the original?
Okay.
I think, I'm not even sure my scanner works,
Okay,
it's
then
in
I'll
the same
take it.
shape as best printer.
You can always take a photo with your
Yeah,
phone.
cause once you give it to me Thursday, then I'll email them.
Sounds
and
good.
say, hey,
Okay,
let's get
and this
started
is
on
for just so, well, you know what it's, okay,
It's
we're all
for
set.
tricentennial.
The tricentennial
Yeah,
patch,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Well, that makes a nice change from incidents, arrests, accidents, citations, and
Yes, it
calls for
is.
service.
Yeah.
Is there anything, about the statistics that we need to know?
You know, we're, spending a little bit more time on 106 this week, just because of bike week, but.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of extra time, or just, anything unusual, or just
No,
normal?
it's just.
traffic stuff.
With the, so at the track, they have, Indians there, Harleys there, and they do a bunch of demo rides.
Oh, that's
So
right,
there's a lot more motorcycle traffic, so we're just trying to keep people from excessive speed coming out of the track, zipping down 106 really
Okay.
fast. I think we've only had 1 accident of a motorcycle since it started last Friday.
good.
oh, that's good.
But in our portion,
Yeah,
so I don't know about the rest of
Right,
106.
I haven't heard much, which is,
No.
that's a good sign.
Yeah.
I hope it stays that way, that's all the end.
alrighty, good,
Thanks, chief.
thank you.
Right.
Sam?
Alright.
We got unpaid receivables.
Yep.
It's a 20-page document, so you got the first and the last pages to show the totals on the front, and then the last
Yep.
ones, which are timber tax and the use change tax on the back. There's 1,118 outstanding tax bills for the 2025 billing, but that's because we haven't received any of our mortgage payments yet.
Yeah.
So,
Do those usually come in a big clump, all,
right,
okay,
several hundred at a time,
ouch,
so.
okay,
That's why we've got a high balance on the first half bill.
okay.
The second page on the packet is the summary of activity by owner for
Yeah.
property that's up for deed as of June 30th.
So since we talked last, which was 2 weeks ago now,
2 weeks ago.
any activity, any communication, anything?
No communication from the property owner since May 22nd. So if you look at that, the top invoice there, the 2022 lien, she made a payment on May 22nd of $3,000.
Yep.
That was the last time we'd seen her. So. We received all the receipts back that both TD Bank and she received the deeding notices, so she's got the notice.
Yeah.
I tracked down TD Bank and I called them and finally today we got a call back. They originally said that they were going to work with her and then they called me back a half an hour later and said they will not work with her. They will not be paying that lien balance of $1,798.69.
Okay.
So TD Bank is out
Okay.
From here forward.
from here forward, yes,
Okay.
for this deeding process.
Alright.
Yeah.
And am I correct, Sam, the bottom number, the 18,775.51, is that the total?
That represents everything
Yeah.
that's due
Yeah.
for all the bills,
Yep.
not just the $1,700 balance that she's gotta pay to avoid deeding
Yep.
on Monday the 30th.
Yep. So you need tonight a yes or a no from us?
Correct.
Okay.
If you'll accept the deed
Yep.
for this property or not.
Selectmen, where are you with this?
I'd say there's a long history of not paying and if the bank is out, there's no backup. And there's still a lot of money due, regardless of this little bit, the 1,700 that we're talking about. So I would say yes.
Calvin?
Yeah, I'd go forward with it.
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well, so.
Now, do we wanna say though, what if this is paid, what if, we've got until the 30th? So what if she comes in on the 29th or even the morning of the 30th and pays?
Then she's clean.
Yeah.
And there's no issue,
Okay,
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now we have a plan moving forward,
Correct.
so.
If the 30th comes and goes and she does not come and pay, means I'll execute a deed.
okay. I think do we need to make a motion and vote on that?
Okay, where'd you make that?
I would make a motion that if the remainder of the bill on this property is not paid by the 30th, that we do put it out for deed.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Questions from me?
No, I think that was
I
our,
think so, you've made everything very clear, thank you, Sam.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you
right.
for being patient with many questions about this.
no, but it's a very clear trail, so, thank you.
Alright,
Alright, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Mrs. Baker, good evening, or good afternoon, I guess, still early enough.
Still early. Hello. Glad to return back to the select board meeting. I hope the season was good. Yeah. So, I'm glad to be back at 5 because I can attend and I do love that. As you heard, Big Truck Day is all ready to go. We have confirmation from police, fire, have yet to hear from highway. But I'm assuming they're coming, multiple inquiries. I would imagine that's normally how it happens. They tend to roll down the day of. And that's a community wide event. The summer reading theme is Color Our World, and that week we celebrate Color Our World with community. We have New Hampshire Fish and Game, New Hampshire Forest and Land, fire, police, 2 logging companies, Brian Lagoon.
Cool.
It's gonna be a great event, and that is next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. That is the kickoff for our summer reading program. We have 27 programs planned in the month of June and July to celebrate summer reading. And last year, we started a commitment to do all of our programming for children outside. just because we feel that that's an important push for us and sometimes the only outdoor time that a child will get in during their summer time. I have purchased a 10x20 tent that I would like your permission, or maybe I don't, but I'd like to ask it as a courtesy, to put it right out back. We're fine with little kids, even if they're 2 or 3-year-olds. I don't like the sun, so we're gonna stop that by putting up a 10x20 tent. I didn't realize how big 10x20, despite the fact that it's in the name of 10x20. It's the largest tent I've ever seen in my life, but we'd like permission to put that out and fold it up. And I have a good relationship with Bowman of the highway department, and he's been wonderful about like kind of steering away, and we have programs outside.
Is that going up and staying up for the totality,
No,
or?
it'll probably go up for, like a week at a time, and then I'll pull it in. It's an easy up, but it's not the easiest.
Gotcha.
like,
Right, no, cause the
Right.
farmer's market ones are 10x10, but I'm just curious where you're going to put it, so how that impacts where we
Right
put
on.
the market,
Correct, yeah, and that's why we're gonna put it out our back door.
where the market also goes.
No, our back door right here.
Here,
behind
you have a
the-
door out this side, the brick side? Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
and so that's where we do most, because the shade is
Yeah, yeah,
good and it's not interfering with the market. However, if the market wants to use the tent, and I think Canterbury Fair will probably wanna borrow this tent because it'd be one less tent to put up. I'm gonna offer that to them, but I'll be able to take it up and down, but with 27 programs, it's gonna be up more than it's down
Yeah.
in June and July.
Yeah.
I don't really feel, because it's not a permanent structure, I don't feel like I need to ask the historical district commission. Maybe I do.
she says on and up, no?
They're behind Kevin outside.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. But, I will be taking it down and putting it back
Yeah.
up. So, we just wanna get the little buggers outside. Speaking of, the Canterbury Fair, Cal and Mary and I always make sure we know when I can have my last town hall program. And July 10th, I'll be out of the town hall and working, like we do with the book sale every year, to facilitate that success. I have been working on the budget, and Ken and Beth and I hashed out a really good plan, and so I'd like to start, Ken and I communicate all the time, but I'd like to make an appointment maybe next week when it works out.
Did you say Ken and Beth and you?
Yes, remember we had our little powwow last year about budgets.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, did we do that recently? Oh, okay, just that, last year,
No,
that one I remember.
Not yet.
Okay, got it, okay.
But when I'm currently on vacation right now, hence my attire, but when we're both at work and Ken and I will sit down, I have formulated the 26 budget, and Ken and I will start working through that.
Great.
Probably not next Thursday,
Okay,
'cause that's big truck day.
correct, I'm gonna be so busy. You're right, so not next week, but maybe the week after. And Ken and I are really good at communicating, and, speaking of which, did Peter Gladys catch up with you yet?
Yes,
Okay,
he got injured and he's gonna be recuperating for a little bit,
oh no.
but he's gonna be alright.
He's gonna be alright, okay, good, because we love that guy. So, I'll connect with you again on that, just on the back. Ken and I have been working on the retooling the back gutter. And I'm happy to report that Total Security has, retooled the whole system, so we're up and running on internet. And that was quite a bill, but I've got the money to do it. So,
And it will save in the long run.
and it will save in the long run, and that again is another communication where we're all on the same page, and we appreciate that. I have every reason to believe that I'm gonna get an American Rural and Small Libraries grant. And at which point I will meet with Ken, because what that will mean, I really wanted to get the grant money in advance and have it in hand before we replace the heating system, which is in desperate need. And Ken and I will figure out how we're gonna hash that out, depending on how much grant money I can get, how much the library trustees wanna put towards it. Do we need a warrant article? We gotta figure that all out, but I wanna have cash in hand before we do that. I've met with 7 heating and cooling companies. The trustees have found a system after I presented them all to them. The trustees have decided on the system with ultra geothermal, and it's a geothermal heating system.
Really?
And cooling system. Yep,
Great,
and so that was a reason that I think I'm gonna get this grant because it's a very sustainable heat system. So more to tell on that, but I'll work with Ken on that. And other than that, all systems go. This is when things, we're a busy library anyway, 386 programs a year. But the majority of them are in the summer, so we're in high gear, so that's it.
no, it's not, because you didn't bring it up, but I will, because, talking about geothermal makes me think of your new weatherization project.
Yes,
On Farmers Market Day, when it was like 90 degrees outside and everybody was sweltering, we all staggered into the library that was blissfully cool, and
Good.
the air conditioning was not running.
Oh, wow.
It was just beautiful and cool, and I think it was really, it really showed that the insulation made a big difference.
It really does. It
Because we
goes-
all walked in and went like, oh, this is great, and Rachel said, no air conditioning.
It's not on, and it's just an old firehouse made out of cinder blocks,
Mm.
Yeah.
it stays cool.
Yeah.
So, and that's why geothermal will really work, because it doesn't really have far to go in either direction to keep it on.
Well, and thanks for all that legwork, because grant work is not easy, and then going through the other process to figure out an appropriate company is huge, so
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, I did not get 23 grants, but like Edison says, you make a lot of mistakes. So, and sustainable.
We didn't know that you didn't get 23, we know you got this one.
Exactly.
And never mind whether you got the grant or not, the legwork to find the companies is huge, so,
It is huge,
So.
so thank you, I appreciate that very much.
okay. Big truck day, yay, yay.
Big truck day. How do we feel about big truck day? We all in? That's what it usually is, and then they roll out, roll in.
Okay,
Color our world with community, I know you won't miss it.
Thanks,
thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
John, you're up.
T7's back, they had to put the brakes on. Incredible, they said that they're.
Okay. Canterbury Dirt.
Dirt Roads is the name, 289 loads so far. We'll be continuing on the rest of this week and into next week.
Good deal. How's
Did you
it
say
going?
289 loads so far?
Yeah.
Wow,
How do the
okay.
roads look, John, after?
How does
The
the
ones you've
road
done,
look at?
yeah.
I think they look okay, they
Yeah.
look a little sandy.
Okay,
It'll all work in.
okay. What have you done? What roads so far?
Oxbow, Pickett, Morrow,
Okay,
Foster, we're working on Baptist Hill.
okay,
Oh, Foster,
Yeah.
that's where those trucks are going, okay, okay.
yeah.
Barrow Hill, the gentleman is changing the driveway to use the log yard that he had.
Yep,
Yeah,
And I told him that will eliminate all other access to his property. And he spent last weekend and moved a lot of material.
oh, okay,
He's going at it.
cool.
Andre should be back at the dump and then David goes on vacation.
okay.
The dump, the packer went down, blew an oil line to the high pressure fuel pump. And outfit out of where able to get it fixed, so we didn't miss a day with that.
Yeah,
Any questions for me?
I don't think so. You've still got, oh, actually, the question's not for you, so never mind. No questions, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Can we drive, well, I do have a question, actually. Can we drive up to like Oxbow, Pickard and Foster and just to look? They're open, right, and passable?
Fine.
Okay. I would have thought we would have heard if they weren't, so thank you. That's all. Thanks.
Alright, Kevin, I think is next, right?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just wanted to update everyone, Friends of Canterbury Center, got some activities coming up. First would be the first concert of the season for the summer concert series. And that is a week from Thursday. Looking
What's the
forward
date,
to
please,
that.
Kevin?
Big truck day.
Same as Big Truck Day.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not
Hold
on
on.
the farm, so I don't know what day it is.
yep,
It is the 20th.
so it'll be the 26th,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, from 6 to 8. One of the things, and this kind of relates also to the July 4th, normally we get some barricades to block off the center. If we could get those early, and I'm happy to pick them up if I can get permission to.
Yep, that's July 5th. though, isn't
July
it?
5th is the
Yeah.
4th of July.
Yeah.
Yep. But if we could have those for the concert series, we would appreciate
Gotcha.
that. And I guess we could
Okay,
just store them
John
behind,
says yes, so,
put them behind the
Right,
store.
dump.
They're in the shed at the dump, right? Yeah, and we could just store them behind the, in case you need them for whatever reason, put them behind the store. Okay,
sounds good.
great. One of the things the board asked me is the spruce tree. We plan on having the audience sit on the south side of the gazebo. And the spruce gives a great amount of shade, but there's some low hanging branches. 3 that I counted, if we could just bring them up above 6 feet. If that was permissible, we'd like to just trim that so that people can sit under there.
Gotcha.
Kids not falling down and
I-
stuff like that.
See a problem with that if you, I mean, you know more about the tree and the health and the
Yeah, we
look of
just-
it than,
We gotta talk about kids and stuff, and sometimes they get falling down on stuff, so if they're out of reach,
Yeah,
that would be wonderful. So on the July 5th, that starts at 5 o'clock, we're gonna bring back the parade, the children's parade like we used to have days
Oh,
gone
fun.
by. Starting at the parking lot, I talked to police chief, he is going to escort us up around the gazebo so
Yeah.
that we don't have to close the road. And we'll have some adult supervision also front and back.
and you're doing that on the 5th, the same as the
So,
fireworks?
yeah, 5
Okay.
o'clock on the 5th. So around the gazebo, so if you've got bicycles you wanna decorate or llamas you wanna decorate or whatever. At 5:30, we're gonna start bringing back also the children's games, sack races, egg tosses and stuff like that. And then at 5:30 also, there'll be a reading of the Declaration of Independence by some special guests. Hot dogs from 6 to 7, thanks to American National. And then 6 to 8, we have Bow Junction playing for music, and from 8 to 9, we're just gonna have some background music piped in at the gazebo so that people wanna just hang out until the fireworks start. We seem to see that quite a bit more and more each year,
Yeah, and the center is really popular,
yeah.
yes, it is.
less mosquitoes,
Yeah.
slightly.
Yeah,
That sounds good.
I think that was it, other than. Oh, and I did talk to Herb, actually, I didn't get a chance to see the fire chief, but they're working to see if they have enough availability to have the truck down there for a little bit. 'Cause again, the kids like that.
Okay, great.
Yes, they do.
Kevin, I'm I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, parking for the concert series, are you guys gonna put signs since you're barricading off the center?
Yeah, so what we would like to do is, we're gonna have, Steve Henry's working on all the parking, but we're gonna have some handicap spaces within that barricaded area
Gotcha.
so that they can park close by.
Yep.
And then direct people to all the outlines for regular parking.
Yep.
Like the school, the library and
Yeah,
stuff?
and we'll be especially mindful of, I know, on Hackleboro, you know, you get a lot of people who just don't wanna get far away, and all of a sudden you get them really pinched in there, so we're gonna try to police that a little bit.
Yeah.
So you don't get a pinched point.
Have you talked to Ron and Judy at all about perhaps parking where they do for the fair on there, or?
Yes and no, roundabout wise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We were trying to see what the turnout was first, to see how much impact we have on the parking that we have. June 26th probably won't be huge, although I hope it is. Word's still getting out there, I think once we have that and the July 5th event, then we'll bring some traction.
Okay, and I'm sure you've sent a whole schedule and stuff into the newsletter? Or someone will?
Somebody on board is tasked for that,
Okay, deadline's the 20th,
got it.
thank you.
Any questions?
I don't think so, that sounds great.
Alright, well,
Yeah,
appreciate-
parking was good.
Appreciate your involvement also, allowing this to happen, we hope it goes well.
You do too, thanks, Kevin. Alright, solid waste committee. Rich, you wanna come up and have a seat? I understand you've got a statement you wanna read?
I would like to read a statement, yes.
Yeah.
So, I got with Cal, did a Google Doc so that, everybody, the questions that you have or the talking order,
Yeah, I think we've all seen the responses, right?
Okay. You have invited the whole solid waste committee here to your meeting. I assume you are contemplating as to whether to, one, disband the committee, two, remove me as chair, or three, to seek some sort of common ground. It is my hope that by coming here today, it is the latter. I wish to use some of the time scheduled for the solid waste committee topic to set the record straight and go on record publicly with our side of the story, and to specifically address comments made about me personally at the May 19th select board meeting. I share Scott's frustration that there seems to be a disconnect between the Board of Selectmen and the Solid Waste Committee. I've attempted to summarize these viewpoints and conversations, including discrepancies, miscommunications, misunderstandings, differences of opinion, and unsubstantiated, oh my god, I can't even read that, substantiated and publicly recorded slanderous comments. Beth reported that she sees the disconnect between the Board of Selectmen and the Solid Waste Committee as a process problem. The Solid Waste Committee summarizes it as a communication problem. If the Board of Selectmen spoke to us directly, this would have eliminated these progressive misunderstandings that have escalated to this point. The Board of Selectmen is concerned that the Solid Waste Committee minutes don't delineate the Solid Waste Committee's process for arriving at conclusions and making suggestions. Specifically, it relates to relocating the transfer station. The Solid Waste Committee minutes do delineate each step of our process. The conclusion to relocate the transfer station was widely implied back in October through anecdotal information, but the committee took the extra step and sought input from citizen stakeholders to weigh in using a voluntary, anonymous, town-wide survey to collect quantifying data. The data confirmed the Solid Waste Committee conclusions. In December, the board listened to that Solid Waste Committee data, presentation, and conclusions pertaining to the transfer station. And we were encouraged to present the Solid Waste Committee findings to the Budget Committee. Our committee was under the impression that the presentation and data were well received. However, the Solid Waste Committee did not have all the cost estimate details necessary to present to the Budget Committee. Calvin and the Budget Committee offered some sound advice for gathering the necessary cost details. So the Solid Waste Committee sought to obtain factual and current data by requesting funds already in escrow to be utilized to conduct a feasibility and sustainability study on the current site. The final report should be ready any day now. The Board of Selectmen has accused me personally of not knowing about a mission statement. That it was my job to know that. As the chair of the Solid Waste Committee, I was told by the Board of Selectmen representative that there were no records or files of any type from the previous solid waste committee. So why would I look for something that I was told that wasn't there? The Board of Selectmen then provided a mission statement. When the mission statement was presented to the solid waste committee members, it was unanimous that they wanted to change it, with no input from me, the chair. The Board of Selectmen has had a representative attend every meeting for the last 3 years. The Solid Waste Committee was told that this rep had agreed to be assigned to most of the town Board of Selectmen committee assignments because another recently elected Board of Selectmen member at that time needed to fulfill a commitment to his job at the fire academy. We are questioning if our work on the Solid Waste Committee was reported to the Board of Selectmen. Were our minutes shared among the Board of Selectmen? If so, were the minutes enough to keep the members of the Board of Selectmen satisfied with our process? Did they have questions or concerns? The committee didn't know about any concerns until viewing the slanderous comments at the May 19th Board of Selectmen meeting. Some of such are, the Solid Waste Committee is demonstrating a lack of process within the Solid Waste Committee minutes. The process of the Solid Waste Committee work is detailed in the committee's minutes. Did you all read them? The Board of Selectmen is wondering how we came to the unacceptable and irresponsible, those are your words, decision to relocate the transfer station and why our work on the Solid Waste Committee was not reported to the Board of Selectmen. The process was documented. The Solid Waste Committee minutes are not sanitized like the Board of Selectmen, no disrespect, no. Like the Board of Selectmen minutes often are. Watch the video of May 19th versus read the minutes. Two very different things. When I asked Beth if she watched the May 19th video, her response was, why? I was there. You may want to see how you are being viewed by the town. That I, as a Solid Waste Committee Chair, am an obstructionist, like that one. In opposition with the Board of Selectmen, Scott has vocalized repeatedly that he is tired of spending his time battling me, not the committee, me, it's on video, and is very frustrated by it. Has the Board of Selectmen even tried to reach out, ask for more details, or even just chat with any one of us or me? These frustrations with communication can be easily rectified if one reaches out. Statements made publicly at the May 19th meeting by Calvin. To be helpful with the Solid Waste Committee needs to look at things like how to help with taxes, the future, things like trash pickup. Calvin, we have investigated those things and more. If you've read all of our minutes, our process is there. Calvin also said they need to be more deliberate in what it is that we ask them to do, quote unquote. What does deliberate supposed to look like if we don't have any information communicated to us? Quote, they're like a bunch of 6-year-olds. We need to be direct, cut the task focus down, like ABC instead of A to Z. This is simply a disrespectful and belittling comment not worthy of a comment. Personal slanderous comments on video but not in the minutes. The Board of Selectmen publicly ridiculed the Solid Waste Committee Chair, who's also a veteran, for holding a committee meeting on Memorial Day. Little did you know, all of the Solid Waste Committee members were polled in the meeting to see if they had any issues with attending, and also to be sure that there would be enough people for a quorum. And nobody objected, everybody was willing to attend a meeting on Memorial Day. The Board of Selectmen and Town Administrator Ken has publicly accused me, the Solid Waste Committee Chair, of not being able to work with Dave at the transfer station. A couple of years ago, Dave showed up to a Solid Waste Committee meeting unannounced and was a little disruptive. The issue seemed to be between Dave and the Board of Selectmen rep at the time. But I work well with Dave. I asked him to come here so that he could refute my comment if he wanted to, if he disagreed with that. The Solid Waste Committee is accused of being surprised and defiant of the mission statement as stated in the Board of Selectmen meeting. It was my job as chair to find such a thing. As stated before, I was told there were no files or records of any previous Solid Waste Committee meetings by the previous Board of Selectmen representative, so why would I look for something that I was told wasn't there? Board of Selectmen, specifically Scott, has accused me, the Solid Waste Committee Chair, of submitting a duplicate warrant article before the town because I didn't trust the Board of Selectmen. I attend multiple Board of Selectmen meetings seeking support on behalf of the Solid Waste Committee for a transfer station study. I kept asking for an assurance that it would be moved on by the Board of Selectmen. But I never obtained that assurance, even when I asked the chair directly. So because of the mandated state deadline to submit petition warrant articles, the Solid Waste Committee felt it was necessary to ensure that something was on the floor for town meeting. This was a committee effort, not a personal one. Scott continues to belittle me publicly. This is all the May 19th meeting, by the way. Watch it, it's great entertainment. Scott continues to belittle me publicly for what he describes me as, quote, taking it upon myself for walking around exit 18 looking at properties. Do you even know I was there? Or who I was with? Making a public statement like this is purely innuendo and disrespectful without knowing the facts. No response was received from the Board of Selectmen Beth when an attempt was made to improve communication between her and the Solid Waste Committee. I sent her an email attempting to apologize for interrupting her during the discussion, which, via rumors only, is a behavior that may or may not have been witnessed by Scott at other board meetings. Why am I being slandered for behavior that only the Board of Selectmen is offended by? I tried to offer apologies immediately after the meeting in question. She found it convenient to talk to somebody else. And if my behavior is so atrocious, then I ask, how was I elected to be vice chair of the planning board by the board members, my peers, and fellow citizens, if I'm so unruly? In referencing the act of resuming oil collection at the transfer station, Ken has stated that most other towns don't even collect it anymore. And his response to me that doesn't work, we gotta figure this out. His response, well, you can look for somewhere else to live. This was an issue that many town citizens wanted, and there were clear options for resuming this. His negative comments are unprofessional and uncalled for. I was seeking to fix the problem. Regarding the Solid Waste Committee presentation by Roy Plisco, the Solid Waste Committee and its chair are being blamed for allowing the presentation to the Solid Waste Committee by Roy Plisco. In essence, the Board of Selectmen is accusing the Solid Waste Committee of using scare tactics as a strategy to move forward with relocating the transfer station. It's not true. Roy requested an opportunity to address the Solid Waste Committee a month before he presented it at a meeting. And he requested an audience with the town administrator and board of selectmen. His request was discussed between me and Ken prior to him doing it. And we were both guessing what the presentation would include, and we're guessing water testing maybe. Had to be about the water testing. It was concluded that neither group could deny the request, so in Ken's words, let it happen. That would be the best course of action. First Amendment rights. It was discussed in a Board of Selectmen meeting that the Solid Waste Committee received the report by email early, Friday, May 9th, before the meeting where Roy presented the information. That's also false. Members of the Solid Waste Committee never saw the report before its meeting on Monday, May 12th. We did learn, however, that Ken was provided a draft copy from Roy on Thursday, May 8th. Who disseminated it? Not Roy. Not the Solid Waste Committee. How you got it by email? Right to know request would find that out, I guess. Almost done.
Okay.
Beth publicly stated that the presentation has been shared more willingly than other discussions by the Solid Waste Committee about moving the transfer station and applying duplicity to push the transfer station relocation forward. That's also false. There was no pre-designed duplicity around the presentation or its contents between the Board of Selectmen, Solid Waste Committee, Roy, or any other entity. And the one that probably bothers me the most, Scott has said publicly, again, in the May 19th meeting. You have said publicly in response to being informed that the Solid Waste Committee has no vice chair. So he is a committee of one. The committee has had some growing pains in the past. Members leave and join for different reasons. We are currently a large group, and in my opinion, are functioning quite well. The topic of vice chair has never been suggested before on the committee. Nobody ever, I even wanted to step down one time. And I left the meeting because I was frustrated, and they all took a vote of confidence. And they said, no, Rich, we want you. Nobody ever wanted to be the chair. Members have been very vocal about that. In conclusion, I hope this message doesn't cause the board to respond in anger and disband the committee or eliminate me as chair. I am just hopeful that I have given you pause to understand, as Paul Harvey said, the rest of the story. I appreciate the opportunity to publicly state my point of view. It's hard to defend yourself when you watch only one side on a video. And I just hope to set the record straight. The future of the Solid Waste Committee going forward is in your hands, and it's your decision as to how to proceed with it. It is my hope that you won't throw out the baby with the bad water and after affording this group a mere 30 minutes to meet with the board via your invite. If you decide to let this group continue, I suggest improving lines of communication to avoid frustrations. You know how many times you said that on that? At least 3 times. And enable productive discussions when there are controversial topics. It is hard to fathom an all or nothing approach. Lastly, I feel that I, and members of the Solid Waste Committee, are entitled to a public apology from each of you for the disparaging remarks coming from the Board of Selectmen May 19th meeting, as seen on the video, which is based on personal opinions or incorrect and misleading information. I don't expect it will be forthcoming, based on the level of frustration emanating from this board. I encourage you to watch yourselves on video, Beth, and everybody else. I know you're here, but you need to realize how ugly the optics are that you're presenting to the town.
Right, thank you. Any other member of the solid waste committee that wishes to address the select board?
Okay, I have a statement.
Roy, you're going separately though at 6:30?
Yeah, I have a statement about the committee itself, and then I have a separate statement about the
Go
report.
right ahead.
Before you begin, I'm assuming we'll get a copy of that, Rich, so we can read through it again? Because hearing it just once is, there was a lot to digest. Can you email it to Cal, please? Thank you.
So, my name is Roy Plisco. My family have been citizens of this town for 63 years. I've recently returned to take care of my mother and my family property. I'm a member of the Solid Waste Committee, and I'm also a part-time employee of the town in the Highway Department, where I've been mowing grass and plowing the roads. Since the Highway Department is also intimately involved with the transfer station, I feel like this gives me good insight into the issues being discussed at the Solid Waste Committee. Unfortunately, it also makes it a little awkward for me because it now seems like my civic role on a committee in this town and my civic intentions as a citizen in this town are putting me in an unfavorable position with the people who hired me as an employee of the town. I just want you to know everything I do for the town on or off the committee is in good faith, and I have in no way expected that I was taking on an adversarial role. I have always understood advisory committees like ours to be composed of citizen volunteers contributing to the civic process in a semi-independent capacity. Our legally recognized role is to study issues, develop insights, and advise the Board of Selectmen. This was the understanding presented to me when I joined, and it has shaped everything I observed and done while serving. I do not see advisory committees as subordinate private staff who receive change management, corporate restructuring, and orders not to reveal information under the Board of Selectmen directive. I see us as volunteer citizens acting within the right to know laws as partners in public service. Ultimately, we all operate at the pleasure of the public. As public bodies under RSA 91A, advisory committees are required to meet openly, record minutes, and report findings transparently. New Hampshire Municipal Association guidance makes it clear that these committees exist to study complex issues and provide independent recommendations. While the BOS retains authority to approve or disapprove of committee recommendations, the guidelines seem to say that this authority does not extend to pre-approving or suppressing committee content. Attempting to do so would compromise both transparency and the committee's essential advisory function. Everything I have witnessed as a committee member has remained consistent with the mission statement and the charge document. Neither of these documents were made known to the committee until recently, and even though all of our internal work duplicated them. Both are now being presented as grounds to question the committee's legitimacy. Concerns over process have emerged, and this is troubling to me because the impression I'm getting is that the proper processes we followed are being ignored or misunderstood, while inaccurate accusations about the process are being presented against us. And now here we are under threat of being dissolved if we do not say the right things tonight. This is very unsettling development to me. And the fact that concerns over process and the threats to dissolve the committee emerged only after I, as a concerned citizen, presented a detailed risk analysis about landfill contamination raises serious questions about motive. I did not do this as an assignment from the committee, but looking into environmental and economic concerns is written right into the committee mission statements. Regardless of intent, the optics of this development resemble censorship and retaliation rather than constructive governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, please.
Roy, could you also please make sure Cal gets it? Thank you.
We have a choice. I can either read the statement I wrote, or I can elaborate on the questions that you asked that I've answered in the survey.
It's up to you.
Okay. I'm gonna answer the questions, the survey questions. Question number 1, at the SWC meeting on May 26th, the chair stated that the committee would not be taking marching orders from the BOS. My answer is what I believe the chair was referring to and what I support is that our committee operates with legal independence and as an advisory body as intended under RSA 91A. Our role is not to take orders, but to serve the public by studying issues and providing recommendations transparently. If that sounds combative, it's because of an unfortunate narrative that is being pushed that distorts the spirit of our role. That narrative has not only undermined the credibility of our chair, it has done the same with the rest of the committee as well. This is deeply disrespectful to the volunteer efforts we have all sustained for years. Question 2, regarding the mission statement. Do you agree with the original 2016 charge developed by the BOS? My response. The original charge was written for a prior 9-year-old version of this committee. Our group formed much later, under different leadership, and without a new formal charge. It's misleading to claim that we're ignoring a mission that was never explicitly assigned to us. What we've done is build a culture of transparency and diligence. The better question here is, why is the board just now raising this after several years of watching us operate in public view? Question number 3, the BOS appointment authority. Does the committee recognize the authority of the BOS to appoint members? My response, of course we do. We've never disputed that. But appointment authority is not the same as editorial content, editorial control. The select board can appoint members, but that does not mean it should micromanage the committee's internal process or silence members' findings. As the New Hampshire Municipal Association puts it, and I quote, "The board should not editorialize, censor, or preemptively attempt to control findings," end quote. Number 4, co-chair appointment, sorry. Does the committee plan to appoint a co-chair? My response is, I believe that's a decision for the committee to make internally and not something the BOS should force. The committee has functioned well for years without one. If the board is suddenly trying to insert structural changes, it raises the question of whether the goal is to improve function or simply control. Number 5, communication of success and failure. The question was, can the committee understand the importance of passing on information on projects that are successful or not? My response is, that's exactly what we've been doing by approving and submitting detailed minutes after every single meeting. If those minutes aren't being accessed or reviewed by select board members, the problem isn't a communication problem on our end. It's access and follow through on theirs. Telling us you can't find the minutes or that you are unable to find specific items within them, as our current BOS rep has done on multiple occasions, does not justify attacking our transparency. That's not just unfair, it's irresponsible. That's it for me.
Alright. Anyone else?
Me.
Okay, thank you.
Get my Megan Portnoy. Do I need to, for the record, say where I live? Is that the rule? Okay, you all know. So I don't have a prepared statement or anything. I'm very new to the solid waste committee. I took a particular interest after Roy's report, which I actually, as an abutter, very much appreciated in giving me some insights into things that I wasn't aware of and was able to, as I said in previous session with you all, look into with DES a little bit more. But that is not what I wanted to talk about. In an effort to find out more about what was going on actually with the numbers, I did a 91A request for any communications between the solid waste committee and Aries. So my intention behind the request was to find more information about what's going on at the transfer station. And I think because the keyword here was what's going on with Aries, I ended up with an email that is relevant in that it had the keyword Aries, but was, let me find it, pull it up in my downloads. Was actually specific to something that you all are talking with Rich about today. And that is kind of this timing of how this report came out to the public, how much the select board, the solid waste committee knew, how much Rich knew. I don't have the full email chain, because again, this wasn't something I was looking for in my 91A request, but it starts on 4/25, an email from Roy to Rich, thanking him for his support, about his report and attaching draft tables that Roy had already created about the ground surface water testing data. And just commenting on the walkthrough with Aries. And then Rich responded that he greatly appreciated Roy's work in digging all of this up. It was stuff he was not even aware of. He's gonna dig into it more and see what they have to say. He doesn't think it's common knowledge in the community. And then thank Roy for his restraint in not bringing this up. I don't know what meeting this context is again, because this was information that came up because of the keyword Aries, not something I was looking for. Regarding yesterday, thank you for your restraint. That would have been the wrong time and place to bring any of this up, as it was something to do with the scope and parameters of what Aries will be doing in the recent contract.
It was a walkthrough.
Yeah, so, I believe, so, Rich said, more data is what's needed here. Your information indicates and outlines an environmental issue with this site and clearly gives reason to move forward and get it out there. Thank you again for not pushing this issue with Aries. I'm sure Ken heard you ask the question and it would have been hard to miss that you had documents in your hand. Rich then sent more information to Roy, attached as additional research this is from Roy to Rich. Rich attaches additional research I plan to include in my presentation. So I ended up with this bit of an email chain that came in other information that I was looking for regarding numbers of the dump and the reports from Aries for the past, since 2017, I think is what I requested. Because they were talking about Aries in this, and I was looking into what's going on with Aries because of Roy's report. So I just thought this was important to highlight because there is kind of, we're talking about painting narratives that Rich didn't know about this, no one knew the details, but this, from this email that I've kind of stumbled upon, seemed much more collaborative back into equal. And so that's just information. And then just personally, I've only been to one meeting so far, but I don't see, I'm sorry? Oh, I thought you were asking me a question. Personally, I don't see an information suppression issue here. I see a select board that just is asking for more transparency and communication and more detail in minutes. And, from what I can read in the room here, the hostility seems very one directional. The select board, out of the two sides of, what's going on here, one appears very dysregulated, and the other seems to just be looking for some answers for clarity for the town. And on that note, I just want to publicly state on the record that I was present for Beth's treatment in the last solid waste committee. That was my first entry to the committee. It was eye-opening. It is, I'm also a planning board member. It is not customary decorum on boards and committees. It was outside the bounds of what is appropriate and professional. And I think if there was detailed record of those interactions in the minutes, the town would be quite disappointed. But this is how we are treating a select board member. So that's all.
Thank you.
I do address that communication in my statement. I can address it now if you want, or we can wait until my statement.
Does anybody else have anything, solid waste committee? Steve? I tell you what, Steve, if, indulge me, while it's fresh, please go ahead.
Which I was going to say in my statement, and I will repeat it then, but that was to let Rich know the subject of what my presentation was going to have, so that he had an idea of what was involved in it, because he just was wondering about the subject matter, so I sent him some information about that I was finding. And that was the extent of that conversation.
Okay, Steve, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't have very much to say. Steve Brown, I just want to say, echo Megan's point that I think Beth has done a very good job as a select board representative. And that she has been treated rudely at times, at the meetings, interrupted, and I'm personally very happy with the work that she's doing. So, just one last comment, the words of Rodney King, why can't we all just get along? So,
Well said.
thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Anybody else have anything? Beth, you wanna say anything?
I think not at this time, thank you. I would like to read, all the statements again and, digest them. I understand the committee's concerns. I disagree with the vehemence of them, I would say. Asking questions is my job. It's why I join committee work, for the board, and I don't think asking questions about why things are done are, accusatory. They're trying to find out information. And that's all I'll say at this time, thank you.
Kelvin?
I'm gonna read the statements and probably watch the video and think about it. I think no decisions or statements really,
I
I just
agree
kinda
with
wanna
that, yeah.
digest it a little bit more.
For the record, I would say I have watched the meeting of, May 19th twice now. In the For What It's Worth department.
Yeah, okay. So I had not also planned on making a decision tonight on the future, Rich, of you or the solid waste committee, so. Come closer.
This is noisy.
Well, come sit back down then, my friend.
No,
I'm not gonna yell.
Mini split is,
Yep. So I had also not planned to make a decision tonight on your future or the solid waste committee's future. I did listen to the last meeting, you treated her rudely. You just did, so, I don't know about previous meetings, I haven't listened to those, so. But I think that's part of the disconnect is you. As Megan said, there is a decorum at meetings. And to interrupt people and to be rude to them is not decorum. So I think that's where part of this issue is. That's all I've got.
anything?
No, that's all I've got. I think we've said our piece for tonight.
I will look forward to digesting the comments, though, thank you, they had a lot in them, that I think might need to be answered, just not now. Not here without thought.
Okay.
All right, thank you all.
Roy, is it 6:30?
Yes.
Okay.
We have the
Well, I'm not driving.
community panel.
Yeah.
Is Beth here?
That's right there.
Oh, I didn't
Oh,
see
hey
her.
Beth,
All right.
come on down.
I have a few slides, does it make sense for me to put those on? Is it possible? Or no? No, it's okay. Can you put them on here and then that would be. Yeah, cause if you put them on there, then we can share this with people and so. Okay, so that's great. Let me just take a minute here.
Come on down,
A
Edgar,
breather for
you're the
everyone.
other, the other rep here.
You wanna give them the letter? Sample?
Let's hold it for a minute.
What is this called? There.
So Beth, while you're trying to figure out the technology end of things, I'll ask Edgar a question which you may or may not know the answer to yet. So I picked up a card at the town hall, I guess at the library, and they're from CPCNH, and it's got the rates set for whatever it was, February 1st, you know. Do they print one of those cards for every rate period?
Yes.
They do, okay. I only found one for the most recent one, but I was trying to compare. Actually, where is that?
Slides are just meant to keep me on track
Mhm.
and also to give you some visuals rather than first say, thank you for trusting me to do this job. And glad that worked out. Ken and I sat and I said, if I was retired, I could do this, and then all of a sudden I was retired, and here I am, just in time.
Sometimes work out.
Yeah, worked out for me. I'll also say that do this work on a level playing field, not one as a main representative, one as a secondary. We'll all attend meetings that we're able to, and except for today, when things were a little bit crazy, we'll be more collaborative, so I think that will serve the town and serve each of us best.
Just the one thing I had for CPC is sitting at home on my kitchen counter.
Students just have a library of stuff.
It's my entire house, it's just a flat filing system. Hey Beth, somewhere in your slides, do you happen to have a comparison of the last rates versus, okay. Do you have all rates that we've done over the course of time?
No, I don't. I don't have all the rates. I have the rates from the last time for CPC and H, and the last rates, the rates for the last time, the time that we're in right now. the
Okay.
period that we're in right now for the utilities.
Okay.
So we can compare those, but wasn't supposed to do a retrospective.
Okay, no, the only question I had is about when the adder was in and when it wasn't, but
Only one time.
yeah,
which was
I've got the
previous
cards at home with a post-it note on it.
That was the only time it was.
Okay.
Probably not critical if it's not possible.
But the important part is for the board here to watch it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we just.
Make it bigger, you,
And I'm assuming, of course, if you have all this, that you can send it to us afterwards, so we, yeah,
yes,
thank
I
you.
did send some of it today. but
Yeah, I did see
late side.
some of it. Oh, actually, I did see some.
So there are three things to talk about tonight. One is that, given our new representation, the cost sharing agreement needs to be updated with a new, officer, which
Okay,
was
yep.
Howie in the
Yep.
past. And we will need to assign a new person. The second page there, Edgar, shows the very top of the cost share agreement and the previous information that had not been changed since Howard left.
Okay.
So this is was a naming of Howard. I am not chair of the CCPC, I am simply the Canterbury rep for
Yeah.
CCPC. And if you wanted to assign me, we also need to assign the authority, which I believe is yes, no, no. And as long as that's captured in the minutes today, that's enough for them, and they will make the changes as soon as I can provide the minutes.
Okay.
And it probably does go to note now that at the last CCPC meeting, that both Beth and Edgar opted to become members of the committee. So they are now
Okay,
not
very
just
good. Yeah.
the reps from the town to Community Power New Hampshire, but they're also a member of Canterbury Community Power. So, and I think we might have appointment slips?
That's in the please sign folder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Alright, so I don't know if this is the time to take a vote on that. I did put that in the, on the agenda there at the top.
Seems like it should be. So what are our this is,
This is assigning the authorized officer for Canterbury and under the cost sharing agreement with CCPNH.
and the authorized officer is authorized to what?
Let's see, you can read that. You probably can't either.
You didn't, that's not something that you emailed us this afternoon, is it, Beth?
What was that?
That's not the thing you emailed us this afternoon?
I don't believe I did.
We've got the rates and
Yeah.
I've got the
Scroll just
proposal.
down here now.
Yeah, that was the
That
role
lower.
that Howard held.
Right down here.
And I guess my question is, are you authorized to, you're basically authorized to represent the town to carry our decisions back to,
The only thing I'm authorized would, if I am here, if I am selected for this position, may elect to delay commencing procurement, yes. The others I am not authorized, but Ken is authorized under another provision of this.
oh, so you would
Which
still
states-
remain as, okay,
Yes,
and you're just additional to Ken,
correct.
okay. There was like an EOP and an AOP,
Mhm.
yeah, okay. Alright, so this
So-
just,
It would be proper for you to make a motion to vote Beth into that position. You had to do it when Howard took
okay,
that position, so you have to do it. And those are the minutes that will be recorded, and that will be sufficient for the Community Power of New Hampshire to I guess.
Make the changes.
Yeah.
and is this is a different, just for clarity, this is different than being the rep to the committee, this is the other position, okay, fine. Then I make a motion that the board vote Beth McGuinn to be the authorized officer from the town of Canterbury to Community Power New Hampshire Committee.
Second that motion.
Can we add something to it? I'm sorry.
Yes, what needs to be added?
With the authorities assigned as Howard's were assigned.
Okay.
Yes, I will amend my motion to include that Beth McGuinn will have the authorities assigned to her that were the same as Howard Moffett had when he held that position.
Round second. Discussion? Alright, all those in favor?
Aye, thank you, Beth.
Alright, second topic is probably something that you have a question about, which is the Canterbury Reserve Fund that we voted in at town meeting.
Yep.
Those funds have not been transferred, but I will work with them to get that done.
Okay. Any idea, Beth, how much?
Well, that was, yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I was hoping that I had that, but what
Yeah.
I have instead is information about who's opted in and who's
Okay.
opted up. So I
Yeah.
don't have any numbers as far as what we have for reserves, that'll come.
Okay,
So, you and myself will have to work with Mary and the trustees of the trust fund The town established the cap reserve account at the town meeting in March. So those funds will be deposited into that cap reserve account. The trustees of the trust have to do that.
Right, and CPCNH will have to have some kind of information to make that transfer
Yep.
possible, so we'll work all together.
Okay.
And who will have, and CPC and H will be the ones who actually have the tally of what we should have in our account.
Yes, they have that
Okay.
information. So,
Yeah.
Okay, and the real reason for being here is that this is the last select board meeting before CPCNH makes their assignment of rates for August 1st, 2025 through January 31st, 2026. The timeline is that on the 23rd, the rate setting committee, along with Edgar and I, will be meeting to determine what those rates are likely to be. We will have 48 hours after that to affirm what our position will be, what level we will accept for the default for Canterbury. And then on the 26th, those will be adopted by CPCNH, and there's a whole follow-up that happens with PUC regulations and all of that. That's what takes the time between now and August 1st to get that settled and done, but it's only a very short period of time. Typically, we have a little bit of information about some of the other utilities and what they are gonna be setting their rates at. We know Unitil is gonna be 11.77 cents as their rate. That's higher than before. We expect that.
11 point what, Beth?
11.77.
Point seven, seven.
It won't be until later this week when Eversource sets their rates. And though we have people on NHEC, a few people on New Hampshire Electric Co-op in town, they are not PUC regulated, and so
Right.
they usually skew much lower.
Yeah.
They don't have all the rules to follow. That's all of the information I have for you. I listened, thanks to Edgar's forwarding me the information, to the last board meeting where you discussed this. And Tom was very forthright in saying that the utilities were lowering the rates beyond what was reasonable.
And sustainable. And sustainable,
And
correct?
sustainable,
Yeah.
and that turns out to be true, and they need to go back and ask for more money, so we knew the rates were gonna be raised. They are not raised as high as they would have been otherwise, they ate some of that. They also tried to put all of that money into the distribution side of the rates that we all pay for Unitil. And they lost. So they have to take that into the supply rate rather than into the distribution rate, which everyone, including those on CPC and H, or CPC.
Yeah.
On Canterbury Community Power are paying, so we are thankful, we should be thankful to the New Hampshire Community Power for taking care of that. Eversource is still not standing as that. So that's where we're at with that now. Rates are gonna be a little bit higher. Currently, the rates for Unitil have been 8.306 and Eversource 8.929. We were slightly below that in February, but then CPCNH had to raise their rates because a power purchase agreement fell through. And right now, CPCNH rates are higher than Unitil and Eversource for the first time. It was not anticipated that that would be the case because they lowered their rates so low. It was very hard for CPCNH to meet that, though they tried.
But that's true for the period that we're in now.
Correct,
Not
we're
go-
in that now,
okay.
not necessarily going forward, they're
Okay.
gonna try really hard to beat those rates. But because we lowered our rates so low, also, we're needing to make up money, make up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you wanna see this too, Kat?
Is that up, I
It is.
I can,
Okay,
so it's 30-year-old eyes,
You've
I
got
can still see
some-
it. I got a
I can
question
see
though.
it, but
Sure,
Would the CP Would those rates be reflexive of the same percentage increase? Where like if you see the news, they've said Unitil and Eversource could be 12 to 18% increase potentially. Would those be similar?
Because we're higher now, our percentage will probably be a little bit lower.
Okay,
Depends on how Eversource comes in, we'll try to beat both, with the lowest rate for sure, and if we can otherwise. I think the reality is what's happened is that we set our rates really low when the rates were really high. And by doing that, we scared the utilities, and they are trying to, compete, which means that rates are lower for everybody. And that's not a bad thing. So we say we've saved the town so much money, but we haven't calculated in how far the utilities have come down as well. It may be, and this is what I've learned from the folks down at New Hampshire Community Power, is that they will be very close to what is Unitil and Eversource's rates. There probably won't be an opportunity for an adder, but there could be. So I did, you can go to the next one, you definitely won't be able to read this. I did go to I transcribed what Howard's vote was in June of 2020.
Is that the Word document you also sent us?
But I said, yes, and I'm
Where is it?
sorry that was still track changes.
The blue one?
You know what, I have it here too. It's out of order.
Must be.
I have it electronically back.
This, mine may be a little bit easier to read without the track changes.
Alright, thanks.
Yes, I have. Swearing off of rate votes. Alright.
Alright, so I don't need this.
So I'm just gonna walk you through this rather than reading it. Basically, what I'm trying to do here is create a vote that allows us to flex what our rate will be based on how far off CPCNH rates are from utilities. So if they're significantly less than the utility rates, then we have some room for an adder, which would come into that fund that we've established at town meeting and be available over time for Canterbury to use for energy and energy related investment in the town. So being optimistic and hoping that we can use the same vote over and over again, I've suggested that the adder be anywhere between 1 and 4 mils, that's between 1/10 and 4/10 of a cent. In addition to what the Granite Basic is, which is the lowest CPCNH rate. We don't know what that's gonna be yet. But that it also be contingent on Canterbury Basic rate being at least 1 mil lower than the lowest of Eversource and Unitil. So that we would not have a rate that was equal to or higher than Unitil and Eversource because we have put an adder on. Also, making it clear that if we can't do an adder, we would simply adopt Granite Basic, which is their lowest rate.
Yeah.
Maintain a 2 mil adder so that people who want to be adding into that fund can opt up to be able to do that.
And that would be
I've confirmed
Canterbury at Basic,
that would be Canterbury Basic.
okay.
And I've confirmed with CPNH that we can do that. We have asked in the past, and I asked last week, whether or not we can have the adder added to all of the rates above the basic. And they think that is possible, but not for this time, and I will try to do that.
Okay.
Because we've heard from people who are at the higher renewable energy clean power 100 or 50 or
Yeah, and they're not doing an
Yeah.
adder.
they're not doing an adder and they wanna go down to the one that has the adder. So it makes sense to have it. There are only a handful of people in town who have opted up to some of those, and they're the same people who wanna make sure that their money's going to the town. So we'll see if we can get that done for the next time.
Okay.
So the vote at the top reflects what I just described.
So this is a real if-then, and we can vote to adopt this, and it covers the contingencies, considering that we don't have a meeting until after we have to set the rates.
Exactly, and let me say clearly that this does not include both contingencies that Howard had stated before and you have voted on. Because right now, we do not meet that contingency. That first contingency said that our rate would not be higher than Eversource or Unitil. Well, that's not true right now.
Okay,
Through no fault of a vote that we took or any action that was intentional, it just turned out like that.
okay.
So the intention is not to be above utilities, but there may be other times when that happens.
And there's still no knowledge about what the utilities will actually have to charge to make up what they were undercutting.
Unitil has eaten several $100,000 of additional funds from their shareholders.
Yeah, but that's not sustainable.
No, it's not sustainable, absolutely not, but that means that their rate is
Yeah.
not as high as it could have been.
Yeah.
To make up the difference. We don't have shareholders, and that's the reason why we adopted
Okay.
community power. But this points out a disadvantage that we're at when we have an issue like this. We'll see what Eversource does.
Yeah, really. Too bad you couldn't know that.
We will later this week.
Yeah. So how do we, not that I doubt that you have researched this thoroughly, but how can we be assured that the logic is correct so that what you think will happen if we vote this does happen?
Scott is reading it now.
Okay.
That's how we-
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm sorry I didn't get it to you earlier today. I totally intended to get this out on Friday and didn't.
It's a lot to digest,
It is a
so,
lot.
so thank you for getting it and coming here now. And I think the question that I raised at our meeting the other night was at the CPC, whatever we are, Canterbury Community Power, was what if something dramatically changes that steps outside of these if-then scenarios? How do we deal with that?
There should not be anything that changes that steps out of this.
Okay.
Because it says that if it's not possible to have an adder, we would drop back to Granite Basic, whatever Granite Basic is.
Okay.
And
Granite
CNH
Basic
is
across the
gonna-
board is the same for all
It's the
towns?
same for all towns.
Okay.
Yep, yep. So
Alright.
that is our fallback, and it may be that that's where we're at, but someday, I hope that we can just recycle this vote. With improvements,
Yeah,
for the next few times.
and it's every 6 months, just
It's
to
every
be
6
clear.
months. So we'll be
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
Between Christmas and New Year's, I think, or just
Usually
before
about,
Christmas.
yeah, about that time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty lousy timing.
Yep, but there we are. Alright, Ken, do we need to read this into the record, or? Yeah, alright, so I'm gonna just read this aloud. And Beth, thank you, because this makes it easy. Whereas the board has considered several options for Canterbury Community Power default energy service rates for the upcoming 6-month period, August 1, 2025 through January 31st, 2026. Now therefore be it resolved that the new community power default energy service rate for the upcoming 6-month period beginning August 1st, 2025 shall be the Canterbury Basic Default Energy Rate, which will add a discretionary fund adder up to 4 mils, parenthesis, 4/10 of 1 cent, close parenthesis, to the lowest cost Granite Basic rate established by Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire Board of Directors at its upcoming meeting, June 26, 2025. The Canterbury Basic adder amount shall be the greatest of 1 through 4 mils, contingent upon the Canterbury Basic rate being at least 1 mil lower than the lowest of Unitil and Eversource default rates. if the new Canterbury basic rate cannot be both lower than Eversource and Unitil, if the new Canterbury basic rate cannot be both lower than the Eversource and Unitil energy service default rates and higher than the Granite basic rate established by the CPC&H board on June 26th, then the new 6-month rate for Canterbury Community Power default energy service customers will be the new 6-month Granite basic rate as established by the CPC&H board on June 26th. And the Canterbury basic rate with a 2 mil adder will be available as an opt-up opportunity for customers who wish to support the adder. So I think that requires a vote, so any further discussion other than what we've had already? All those in favor then?
Aye.
Can we get a formal motion and second?
Alright, so I'll make a motion that we accept the proposal that I just read.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll keep
Thank
you
you for all
posted
the
on
work.
what it actually is.
Well, yeah, please do,
Yeah.
because that'll be very interesting.
So we'll be meeting on the, on the 23rd, and we'll have some information.
Okay, when you say we, CCPC, or you'll be meeting Edgar, yeah,
We'll be in
gotcha.
right. Our next meeting isn't until, well, whenever, I'll
We
post
give
that.
them an acronym, just to make it more confusing.
I know,
Thank you all.
thanks.
All right,
Good night.
thank you. Thank you, Edgar and Beth, for stepping up for this, cause this is important, thank you.
Alright, Roy, why don't you come forward?
So I have a statement here, takes about 15 minutes, if that's okay. And then I'm available to answer any questions you guys might have about, you know, whatever you need to know. So thank you for putting me on the agenda tonight. I wanted to be here to speak about a report that I wrote, which was brought up by Megan Portnoy and discussed by the Selectmen on the May 19th Board of Selectmen meeting. I'm concerned about the accusations that have been made about the report, and there appears to be confusion about how the report was created and when it was distributed, so I think it's important for me to clarify this confusion. First of all, this report was not tasked to me by the Solid Waste Committee. It was inspired by events that transpired during my time on the committee, and those events are covered in the report. However, this report represents my own initiative and my own time and money based on my own curiosity, concerns, and frustrations. The only role the committee or the chairman played is that I asked to be put on the agenda, and I provided the chair with some materials as I progressed so that he would know the subject matter. It was my belief that this was the correct place to make my presentation because it would follow the chain of process, starting with the committee, who would discuss it and decide if the Board of Selectmen should be advised about it. I'm still waiting for the next meeting where we plan to discuss it, but I'm getting the impression that the Board of Selectmen were advised about it even before the committee was. I also need to clarify that the committee did not have access to this report until the day I presented it. I gave an unfinished draft to the town manager the Wednesday, I think Wednesday or Thursday before, I think it's Wednesday because I work on Wednesday and I was mowing the lawn when we spoke.
8th of May.
Yeah. Where is it? Lost my place. Okay, I gave it as a courtesy because he's the one handling all the correspondence on this subject and he's also my boss. So it was not the final draft, but I elected to do it because I wanted to make sure that he had plenty of time to examine it and offer any feedback before I presented it. I didn't hear anything from him or anyone in the days that followed, so it was my impression that the information was acceptable. I need to point out that this draft copy was then apparently, and I don't know, but it sounds like it was digitized and provided to the select board on the following Friday, before the committee had a chance to see it. This was not the official copy I put on the record. It had unfinished language, some of the data was not fully proofed, and entire sections of it were still missing that didn't end up until they were the final draft. So if that draft is still floating around in people's email boxes, I would like to use whatever intellectual property leverage I have to ask that that draft not be distributed any further than it already has. I'm already kind of disappointed that this was what the selectmen saw first, and this is what was passed, I think, to George at Aries Engineering. I don't know. It's my understanding that Cal has provided you with a digital copy of the final report in preparation for the meeting. I also provided Beth with printed copies to give to each of you, which I assume you passed on. Continuing with the timeline, after providing a draft of the report to the town manager, I then spent the rest of the week finalizing the report and getting it printed. The chairman and the secretary did not get a digital copy of the finalized report until a couple of hours before I presented my hard copies at the committee. And I want to explain what led me to the decision to create this risk assessment. The Solid Waste Committee had been facing pushback about making improvements at the transfer station, and then later additional pushback about the idea of relocating it. These were both related to the landfill and the oversight from the Department of Environmental Services. But we were not getting a lot of the details we needed to serve our advisory function. The committee chair would make inquiries and then come back to report what he found. The selectman representative at the time would also share what he knew. Unfortunately, a lot of the information took on the character of assumptions, anecdotes, and hearsay rather than certainty. For example, we were told that there were over 190 uncapped landfills in the state and ours was not going to draw attention. When I investigated this, I found that the list of uncapped landfills with active transfer stations on them is much smaller. And when you add a wetland on the border, the list gets even smaller than that. I found that wetlands are protected areas in the eyes of the state and federal government, and contaminating a wetland can bring a lot of trouble. Those details appeared to add up to a more substantial risk than the original anecdote. To follow the proper process, the committee chair advised the Board of Selectmen in a PowerPoint presentation, and then later the Budget Committee, that there was a reasonable risk that the landfill could be forcibly closed in the future. One of the responses to this was that the state has no budget to deal with forcing landfill closure. When I investigated the state budget, however, I found that there was both older line items and new budgetary interest in dealing with landfills. We were told that if the state was going to close the landfill, they would be forced to provide money to help, and the state had no money for this. When I investigated this, I found that there is no requirement for the state to provide money. Landfills out of compliance can be shut down with the stroke of a pen. I also found that there was indeed money set aside in the state budget for special cases, and there are several sources of grant money available if towns apply for it. As the water testing results became the subject of interest, we were told that there were no problems and that all the wells were testing fine. Then we were told that there was one well that had a problem. When I investigated the test records, I discovered that all of the downstream groundwater wells were measuring over the standard since 2017, and the surface water had iron and lead problems since 2008. This led me to conclude that we had an information problem, and it would be useful if some independent source could provide some clear and factual information on this subject. It seemed like a critical question. If the current location has serious landfill contamination, it may not be wise to build additional expensive infrastructure even if it's possible, because the site is at risk of various kinds of blowback, including environmentalist lawsuits, citizen groups taking action, or expensive restrictions and fixes imposed by us by the DES. In the worst case, I felt the town might need to pay for both the landfill mitigation and new infrastructure for collecting garbage. At the same time we were experiencing this informational confusion, I was also hearing from the chairman of the committee that the BOS and the Budget Committee did not feel that we, the Solid Waste Committee, were providing enough details when we expressed concerns about the existing location. At the next committee meeting, we were told by the chairman that the process we needed to follow to move forward was to get bids from an engineering firm to help us determine what improvements we can and cannot make on the existing location. To me, this was doing things in the wrong order. Even if we can find a way to build new infrastructure on this location, the more important thing is for us as a town to decide if we should. And I believe we could do this using the information we already had available. If we decide we should not, then spending any other money on this location was a wasted resource. I did not want to waste money creating estimates for plans we may not need, and I did not want to waste further money actually building infrastructure that might become stranded in a few years if a location is shut down. This is where my sense of duty as a citizen came in. My family has been here long enough that I remember throwing garbage into that landfill when it was all on fire. I feel a special responsibility for making sure the legacy we left did not create a waste of resources or contamination of the environment. I decided I could be useful to the town by using my research skills to examine all of the available information and provide a report that pulled it all together and assessed the possible risks. This could help provide everyone involved with a clear picture so that the town could make decisions based on data instead of anecdotes. I was willing to do this as a volunteer. I consulted town history, I spoke with eyewitnesses, and I reviewed nearly 20 years of public data that Ares Engineering filed with the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. I also investigated the relevant laws, budgets, and regulations, as well as reviewing professional literature on how wetlands interact with contaminants. My sources are all listed in the report. I did not contact Ares or DES directly. I focused on the history, the public record, and the risk assessment. In my view, it's my job to offer the information. It's the committee's job to discuss the merits, and it's the BOS's prerogative to reach out for further inquiry. I learned that the landfill is under a groundwater management permit, which requires regular water testing, and it limits what we can do on the site. The town also holds a Chapter 108 designation, which allows us to avoid capping the landfill if the contamination is contained. What I learned as I did my research is that it does not appear that the contamination is staying contained, and my report provides details. Every chart, map, and data point in the report is based on public documents created by the engineering firm that the town hired. And yes, there is a concerned tone to the report, which is natural to a risk assessment, which must play the devil's advocate. Its purpose is to help us see what problems may arise if we invest further at this location. Under the circumstances, I am unsure how I'm supposed to assess the risks of wasting money and tainting the environment without posing concern. The most striking discovery was in the water testing data, where I saw the consistent presence of lead, iron, and PFAS in both groundwater and surface water samples. PFAS, as many of you know, is a family of synthetic chemicals produced by companies like 3M and DuPont. The ones we test for are known as PFOS, PFOA, and PFHEX-S. They were used in many common items of the past, and they're linked to cancer and other health issues today. They don't degrade in water, they move with it. They're called forever chemicals. The PFAS sitting in the groundwater and the surface water of that wetland right now could be doing whatever it does for up to 1,000 years. This has prompted large-scale legal and environmental action across the country. These chemicals can be captured by wetland sediments, which might make them invisible to water testing, but they do not go away. They can build up and then be remobilized in higher concentrations during flooding. And as they spread, they can contaminate fish, plants, wildlife, and downstream waters. Maine has issued a no-eat order on contaminated deer around PFAS sites. In my report, I included tables tracking Canterbury's PFAS test results in groundwater since 2017 and surface water since 2018. The numbers, to me, are worthy of concern. The legal threshold for one of the PFAS compounds is 18 parts per trillion. In 2018, our surface water tested 23,000 parts per trillion for that compound. That's more than 1,200 times the state limit. I don't need to be a physicist to know that if the speed limit is 18 miles an hour, then going 23,000 miles an hour is going dangerously fast. I don't need to be a physicist to know that if I'm traveling at high speeds, it's dangerous without a lot of careful preparations. I also don't need to be an engineer or a scientist to see that the state standard for PFAS is between 12 and 18 parts per trillion, and if we're testing at 1,700, 3,600, 4,500, even 23,000, we're not creating a testing record we should be comfortable with, even if the state tolerates it for now. I don't understand the lack of concern about this from the town leadership. I don't understand why I should be accused of bias and fear mongering for asking if we should be concerned about it. Ares Engineering, who has done all the water testing here since 2005, is now being asked to assess whether the site is suitable for future improvements. That means the same engineering firm that has monitored the site for nearly 2 decades is now being paid to evaluate its own legacy. I'm confident Ares does competent work, but their job in the last analysis is to tell us what's possible. It's our job as a town to decide what's wise. I don't think it's wise to abdicate our civic responsibilities to a private engineering firm. That's why I took on this task as a citizen volunteer. Citizens have the right, and I would argue the responsibility, to examine public data and raise informed concerns. It's how democracy is supposed to work. On May 19th, Megan Portnoy, who vetted my report, was here talking to you about it. She's found, as far as I can tell, that my data was accurate, and she further confirmed that the PFAS surface water standards are very likely coming. And that's a crux of this risk. It is a condition of our permit that landfill groundwater cannot contaminate surface water outside the permit boundary. The landfill's groundwater is now doing that on the Conservation Commission land. In 2024, Ares Engineering reported that the combined surface water PFAS in this neighboring property measured 8,443 parts per trillion. The groundwater standard is 12 to 15 parts per trillion. If surface water PFAS standards are adopted as expected and the limits are set in this standard are similar, looks like we're gonna be in violation. At the May 19th BOS meeting, it was said that we're doing everything DES tells us to do. But compliance with minimum DES standards is not a guarantee of long-term sustainability. We have been given special permission by the state to leak our contaminants into the water, but that does not mean we should. I would rather not wait to see if Megan's well has PFAS in it, to see if people get sick, or to see if the transfer station is shut down to realize it was a bad idea. We should be proactive, not reactive. It's worth noting that Ares Engineering has also consulted for the Bethlehem landfill since 2008, and that site still became a PFAS flashpoint with violations and public backlash. This is not to criticize Ares or DES, it's to point out that simply doing what is required is not the same as managing risk or protecting public trust. This is not about fear, it's about facts, it's about stewardship, and it's about leadership. I believe the select board cares about the long-term interests of the town. I didn't write this report to challenge anyone. I wrote it to help us all avoid costly surprises, shifting regulations, and possible irreversible environmental damage. I respectfully ask you to engage with the findings, not because I wrote them, but because the data accurately reflects our own history, our own testing we paid for, and our shared responsibility. I hope you've all had a chance to review the report, and I'd be glad to answer any questions to clarify anything in it this evening. So, with that, are there any questions? Or is there anything I can offer to sort of clarify anything?
I just wanna say I appreciate your statement.
Okay.
I really do. I know you made the comments there about an engineer. I don't understand a lot of this stuff at surface value, and so I appreciate you clarifying where you got the information, because a lot of that sort of was me personally wondering where it came from, how it was,
Yeah,
how it all
and
came
I
together.
hope you guys do have this
We do, I don't have a,
version.
we do have a version of it,
And,
yes.
And just for clarity, Ares received the final copy.
The final one, thank you, I'm glad to know that. There were the two biggest issues I found in our situation right now is the surface water site 2. On the color map in this appears like it's outside the groundwater management zone.
Roy, what page you on?
I am on page 46.
Thank you.
There's a paper copy in the box.
No, I've got, it's easier for me
Can
to
I still
navigate
have
this way.
I don't computer.
So surface water 2 on this the 2024 satellite map.
I've got this too.
It looks to me like it's outside the boundary of the groundwater permit management zone. And that's the one I was talking about, surface water 2 in 2024. PFOS is 3,680, PFOA is 213, and PF hex S is 4550. And the standard for the state is 15, 12, and 18, so those are very high numbers to me in surface water test site 2. And if I understand the groundwater management permit correctly, as I said, the groundwater in the permit zone is not supposed to contaminate the surface water outside the permit zone. And this looks like it is, and the only thing that's keeping us safe right now is the state hasn't made a surface water regulation yet. But if they do, that's gonna change the paradigm for us. And that's why I feel like proactive action is probably worth considering. The other problem I see is there seem to be 2 different boundaries for the landfill in the maps that I found. There was an older original one, I believe this is on page 43 from 2007. This is one that the report says this one was done by digging test pits and finding landfill in those test pits. And this is the boundary that they determined was where the landfill was. And I would add that John has said that he's actually found landfill outside of this boundary as well, all the way over to the shed. But you can speak to that if you need to, John. So this boundary on page 43 is you may notice is much bigger than the boundary on page 45, which was 2018. And that one from page 45 seems to be the one that's carried to today, which is the 2024 boundary, and it's a much smaller boundary, it's only sort of in front of the building and the trailers. So if you look at the boundary for page 43 and the page 46, those are 2 totally different sized boundaries for the landfill. And if the DES regulation says we can't build on landfill and we can't dig in the ground where landfill is, it's gonna be really important for us to figure out the size of this, because the whole area could be, all the way to the burn pit could be unusable. And I don't know, maybe George can speak to that. So those are the 2 biggest concerns I came up with in this, other than in general, the numbers seemed really high to me, they just seem, and again, I'm like you guys, I'm a layman in this, I'm not a scientist, but these numbers seem very, very, even in the surface water numbers, these tables with the red in them are the ones that I compiled from the water testing reports. And the groundwater wells, AE1, AE2, and AE3, those are the ones that are downstream at the bottom of the bank. And every one of them is in the red from 2017 all the way to 2024. And when I put it in the red, that means it's over the New Hampshire standard. And when there's an X after it, that means it's a multiple of the New Hampshire standard. So, you know, you've got 51 times the New Hampshire standard, you've got 88, 2024 test well AE3 was at 88 times the New Hampshire standard. The standard is 18 parts per trillion, and the PF hex S is 1600 parts per trillion. That's the latest report. That's actually higher than it's been for that compound. It looks like, and then they've all been pretty, I mean, I make it dark red when it's over 50 times the standard, just to sort of reinforce that these, and to me, again, these numbers are concerning even if the state allows us to do it, because these chemicals last forever. They're not just gonna disappear, even if they attenuate into the wetland, they're not gone, they're just hiding to surprise us another day if something happens. And I don't know what the actual hydrological system is between Crane Neck Pond and Horseshoe Pond and all the streams leading out of Horseshoe Pond. Are they going across Morrill Road and Pickard Road, or, I mean, I was trying to look at the contour map to work that out, but I don't have any certain numbers, but this is going past this is sending water through a whole lot of area besides that one sort of quiet thing, as well as the fact that wetland behind the transfer station is going all along Baptist Road. As you're driving along Baptist Road, you see it on the right constantly. That's the same wetland on Baptist Road as the one that we're talking about that has the surface water in it. So I feel a little more confident now that Megan has actually vetted it and talked to people and seemed to find that these numbers are okay. But it was disturbing to me, and it felt like it's something that we needed to bring to our attention, even if everything turns out to be fine and I'm blowing it out of proportion. I feel like it's worth at least discussing whether we should be concerned about it, discussing whether the state standard is enough, or are we worried about what may happen, you know, beyond their, I mean, because the state is gonna hold their standard until something bad happens, usually, If somebody gets sick, or if a groundwater well has contamination in it, then the state's gonna step in. And whether or not that's gonna shut us down and force us to rebuild the transfer station somewhere else while also capping a landfill, that sounds really expensive to me. Or whether it's just, it doesn't happen for 10 years, it could still be contaminating somebody downstream eventually because it's always coming out, and I don't have any estimates for like how much of it could possibly be in there. But again, these numbers, when I saw them, and I thought that when you saw them, they might be concerning numbers. And I understand Beth's point that, what is contamination? Is it normal or is it, oh my god? But as the more I dug into this, the more my brain was sort of saying, is this bad? Oh my god! So I don't know, I'm not trying to, maybe George can answer some of this as well. I'm not trying to be an adversary, I'm not trying to gotcha anybody, I tried to, like I said, I gave Ken advance notice of this, cause he's been dealing with the correspondence and he's been seeing the reports and filing them, I assume, I'm assuming that you guys get a report as a committee every year when they do the water testing report, somebody runs it by you and lets you know, but I don't know if anybody ever put it all together into sort of a historical context, so you could, and so you can see it all in sort of pulled together format. And so I apologize if this seems like it's biased. I tried to include George's statement, assuming you read the one that, the final result, I included George's statements to me when I asked about the water testing. In it, I handed out a public, what I call the public summary, I don't know if it's here. But it's broken down to more simple terms if somebody wants to just read a quick one-page document that lets them know. And that summary says we've got options, we can keep testing and see what happens, we can build new infrastructure on there and see what happens, or we can try to think about being proactive and working our way out of there over time. And I think the solid waste committee's advice was we should try to at least think about the future, even if we don't do anything now, we should set up the capital reserve for there is one for the landfill closure, as I understand. And I appreciate you correcting the number. It was 100, I got my source from the Canterbury plan for tomorrow, which said that the capital reserve fund was $100,000. And I guess Ken updated that, it's 153 or so.
Yeah, it's in the town report.
Yeah, I didn't look at the town, that would have been a better place to look probably. It's worth noting that the plan for tomorrow, somebody accidentally took out a couple of zeros, so it says there's only 1,000 in there in the plan for tomorrow. But so yes, I do, that is a number that I will take responsibility for getting not quite right, the $100,000. But I think Megan's point was that it's still probably not enough, and we might wanna consider contributing to that in anticipation that something might come along. And I still think it's probably a good idea to think about what happens if they shut us down. And I was looking into, well, maybe we hire Casella to come in and pick up our garbage for a few years while we work it out, but that's expensive too. Everything is expensive. And staying where we are, is not maybe financially expensive, but there's a lot of risk involved in what might come down the road at us. I mean, the status quo right now is safe, but I think it's better to work while we're safe towards what might happen than to wait and react to it, as I said, so. Yeah. That's the best I can offer, I think. I'm not sure if there's any other questions, or any other things to bring up. I did try to include all of my sources in here for where I got it. The digital version will probably link you to them directly better, than having to type it in. I included some correspondence where DES was actually saying that they were concerned about this or that type of extra contamination. They were asking for Aries to provide recommendations for mitigations and things. But they're clearly, there's a record of, see, my concern is that DES is sort of on the side of the environment and the citizens, not necessarily the municipalities. And if something comes along, they're not gonna be our lawyers, they're gonna be the ones coming down on us. And all this right now is us complying with them, but it's also us building a record that they could use against us anytime they decide that things are wrong. They'll say, oh, look, 23,000. And now all of a sudden they can start using that against us. So this is why I felt it was important for the leadership to consider and I guess the public also to have some information to where if the public isn't concerned about this, then I'm not, then I'll feel better. I don't wanna be an alarmist thing here, I just want people to understand and look at it and use their judgment. And for our leadership to go through the civic process of you guys considering it and getting, Aries' viewpoint on it. As well as sort of the policy type decisions that we have to think about in our government. So,
Thank you
yes,
for
any
coming
questions?
in, and actually, you gave, I think, a very clear, well-reasoned explanation for why you did what you did.
Okay,
I appreciate it,
okay.
so.
Well, I didn't like feeling like an adversary or a fearmonger or whatever, and I understand it's kind of shocking information, and I understand how it might take on, the appearance of trying to ambush or whatever, but I really, that wasn't happening. So, alright,
Anybody else?
anybody?
No, thank you, because I wanna read through your statement again and then look through the document.
Absolutely, yeah, and I
With
will
thought.
email you this and the last statement, they're gonna go on the record, like with the minutes?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and Megan, you had something?
Yeah, I just wanna clarify, I didn't vet in that last meeting that I attended, I didn't vet the numbers yet. I said that the DES database is quite wonky and doesn't
is.
have the complete reports and some missing some years, so I said I was going to do a right to know request for all of the reports since 2017. Cal has provided that, I haven't had time yet to go through and look at what all the numbers mean and if they match the report, so I just wanna clarify, I did
Okay.
not vet them.
and I do have a folder full of all the reports, if that's useful to somebody, I can just give them to you. I mean, they're
Yeah, I
publicly
think-
available.
Yeah, we've got them, right, Ken?
You probably have them
Yeah,
as
so
well.
we have
It is a
yeah.
the database is crazy and it looks like there's nothing there until you figure out the right button to push and
Yes.
then you get the historical stuff over
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
It's wonky, it is.
Yeah,
And from my conversation with DES, it is a thing they're aware, and that's why there's groundwater monitoring. If it's going outside into surface water, they are constrained by what the state allows them to regulate. But, so in the vein of, was something done wrong or we're not following the law, I don't think that that's the case.
No, and I'm not making that case at all.
Yeah, but I would agree with the concern,
Yeah.
especially as an abutter, that if it's going into surface water, it's going into surface water, and I don't fully trust this idea that it's okay, the wetlands will provide the buffer, cause you're just contaminating the wetlands. But I'm not the expert, he's the expert, so, and I have a question that I'm curious about, I don't have contact with Aries, but I would want to know if there were any recommendations not to remediate and why.
Question for me.
Yes, I didn't know if I'm allowed to
Yeah.
ask you questions,
Wait,
so.
can I ask a question first, before we step away from Megan talking with DES? Because it's come up, I think, in a couple of conversations, exactly who you talk to at DES, because it could be any one of a number of people who
Yeah.
may be more or less familiar with Canterbury, so.
Yes, I gave a name, it should be in the minutes from the last time I spoke with you.
Okay.
but I found in the records that I could find, it's Jamie O'Rourke, who's in charge of our monitoring kind of thing.
Okay.
When I reached out, he was out of town, and so his second in command was Julie Spencer, and that's who I spoke with.
Okay, thank you.
Jamie asked her to call me,
yeah,
because I got my voicemail.
thank you. Mr. Holt, do you wanna respond?
Sure. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yes, there is.
There it is.
Let me just talk through the deal.
Please.
And I kinda wanted to talk to you about it, but I just didn't feel like it was my place. And I didn't know what, I wanted to talk to you about it, I didn't know who to go to about it, and I thought the
Yeah.
committee was sort of the safest place to start, and I didn't know, I didn't intend to blow it up. You know?
So generally, your presentation is very factual, very, the numbers don't lie. We generated all this data, we sent it to the state, it's not that we're trying to be under the cover or anything like that. It's just, we do the groundwater management permit monitoring on an annual basis in accordance with the state, following their rules and their guidance. We work with Jamie O'Rourke on this. And the only thing that was incorrect in your statements were, we have worked for the town of Bethlehem, but it was in an adversarial position
Oh, was it? Okay.
against the landfill in Bethlehem.
Oh, was it? Okay.
For the years that the selectmen did not like the landfill, we worked for them there.
Apologies.
So, that, just to clarify that.
I was just trying to find an example of, following and doing the compliance alone isn't necessarily gonna stop trouble. And I wasn't trying to cast any aspersions on you guys in that
I
context.
just wanted to make that,
But that's
we don't
good
work
to-
for Casella.
Okay,
That said, the landfill here, we have been monitoring, our project number is 2003, so in over 20 years, we've been working on this project. And working with the state when new contaminants come up, so when we had lead in our first surface water sample, we stepped out into the surface water to look at other lead concentrations and found that it was fairly localized in that one SW1 sample. Along comes PFAS, and we start testing for that. That compound is very susceptible to binding up with organic matter, so when you collect a silty sample, you get a lot of PFAS, and that's why you see the variability in the samples that we have in the wetlands samples.
does it actually disappear into the sediment? Like, so that the water samples don't show anything if you get a clean one?
It would be bound up with the organic carbon in the wetland. So back in 2017, 18, working with Jamie Overwork, we looked at when this new emerging chemical came to be found on the landfill, as it's found in nearly every landfill in the state. We started looking at receptors, and the state's goal, and we follow the state's goal, and town follows our guidance to follow the state's goal, is to maintain human health and protect human health and the environment. So one of the first things that we looked at was, when we found these in the monitoring wells, is what's in the surface water. And so we tested the surface water, even though there's no standard for that. And we found that it was very high concentrations, as you pointed out. But we also wanted to look at exposure risk to the human population. And the state required us to sample a neighboring property which is adjacent to the landfill. To date, they have not detected PFAS in their well. We're to test them again in 2026. For the offsite
Quick question about.
samples
Okay, good.
that are in the wetland, we had to step out another time to further distances to along the flow path through the wetland to assess what is going out to Craney Pond. And our sampling for that area is basically in the like 3 to 2 parts per trillion, so
Yeah, I
it's
saw it was low there.
it's very low at distance. So with that in hand, we were able to say, hey, the wetlands are containing the contamination and not representing an off-site contaminant risk for people in Craney Pond areas. Did I get the name right?
Crane neck.
Craney Neck. And there weren't other wells that were in proximity that were downgradient of the landfill that we found, and we did a survey in 2019. The state has a notification process that if new contaminants found in a water supply well or PFAS, they send notices out to all the neighboring properties, and then
Yeah,
request.
6 properties were notified, I think it was 2019.
I think that's about right.
Yeah.
So it was.
I have the letter here. Yeah, October 21st, 2019, and it went out to actually it doesn't say, but several the neighboring properties. From our research, then the state contacted us and we looked at all the neighboring properties that had wells that were developed to work with Ken on this to find who had a well. And we determined that any other well that was too far away to be of consequence. But I think, if there's concern for people that are in the proximity, you know, they can test the well or contact, you know, the town maybe as a potential to get a well sample. But to be honest, what we've found so far is that there aren't wells that are impacted in the neighborhood.
It looks to me like all of the drinking water wells are actually upstream, up gradient, and that's
Correct.
sort of a thing
That's-
that's keeping us safe right now
There was
from
one
drinking
well, when we looked at the data set, that had tested, and they were, they did have PFAS in their well, but it was attributed to their on-site septic system. And that was far, down Baptist Hill Road. So,
Yeah, that Baptist Road is up gradient above the landfill even, which is, so the
So-
water's going
essentially
past
we've
them and
been,
then through the landfill, correct?
yes.
Do you see
So
that
essentially
Megan
we've
has a
been,
question?
No, actually. Megan, did you have a question?
Yes, actually, that was something, that was the only thing really that Julie was surprised about when I asked why there is only one private well being tested when there is an official list of 9 abutters that should be getting notifications. And she was like, well, they should be, I don't know why they wouldn't be being tested, all the abutters should be tested.
because they're hydrologically up gradient, or groundwater doesn't flow that direction, it flows away from them.
A lot of these lots, abutting lots are in the wetland itself, right? They're not residential.
Right, the Conservation Commission properties are wetland,
Yeah.
there's no wells on those.
Those are part of the abutters that were notified.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, we are going to get our well tested, and I did not know that you tested into Crane Neck outside of the wetlands, cause I haven't.
Not into the pond, but
Not into the pond.
if you have our latest
It's a
report,
much better map,
um,
this little one.
it's
Oh, I see.
approximately 400 feet down gradient from the landfill.
Okay.
So that's along the main channel of the wetland, heading out towards Crane Neck Pond.
Okay, so it is,
The
that
pond's
is heading
down
towards
here.
Crane Neck. Okay, because we plan on getting Crane Neck is on our property, we plan on getting Crane Neck tested, and DES did say if that comes back elevated, they wanna know. But you're saying that's unlikely, given that it's not in that channel?
So the other thing to consider is that this is not the only source of PFAS in the state. So, there's a study that was done,
When you say this is not the only source,
No, I'm
you
talking
mean
about
the
the
landfill, okay, just to be clear.
everybody's septic system potentially could have it in it. The air emissions from far away could have caused that. And what they found when they did a study in southern New Hampshire, this is the PFAS baseline study for lake fish specimens, surface water and sediments in multiple lakes prepared by DES 2021. They tested, I think, 20 lakes in southern New Hampshire. We're sort of central New Hampshire, so south of that, but their typical concentration for PFAS in lakes range between 12 and 2 parts per trillion. So these are just background lakes. PFOA had concentrations, I think they were on the order of, like, they are all detect, and this is available online. Actually, there were a couple that were not detect, but then they ranged up to, say, 8 parts per trillion. So
What year was that study, please, George?
2021.
Thanks.
And then may I have one more question?
Sure, go ahead.
So to this question of should we move the transfer station based on this? Have the levels been relatively stable or are they rising? Because the transfer station being there, it's that what's historically done is done, right? But the transfer station being there, if that is causing levels to rise, then that would be a justification for that kind of consideration. But moving the transfer station, if this is just already there and it's going to stay there,
That's, I think
then
there's 2 issues here. One is the study that we're also doing for the town, for the transfer station. And that's independent of the landfill and the groundwater management and surface water management. And there really isn't any, they're both in the same location, but they don't impact each other.
So have
Operating
the
a transfer station doesn't contribute to the contamination.
okay, have the levels been rising? Or
They
they're
actually
pretty-
have not, it's,
Okay, so that's, yeah.
if you were to do a statistical trend, they're probably neutral, saying there's not enough information or the time span hasn't been long enough to calculate a trend. The first couple samples that we had, the first rounds, you mentioned like 22,000.
Yeah, that was a big one, and you retested, it was lower.
Right, and that we attributed to the fact that when we first grabbed the sample, it was a lot of organic sediment in the sample. When you take the sample to the lab, it extracts everything from the organics, and that would create a much higher concentration. Whereas if you were to filter the sample and just get, although we don't filter the sample because we wanna be, filters also can potentially contribute to the PFAS concentration. We decant the water so that we have basically clear water. And we try to maintain that consistency to have reproducibility in results. The bottom line is the trends really they haven't really changed, they're still high, but as you get further away from the landfill, the organic material in the wetlands tends to absorb that PFAS that's been out there for who knows how long.
That was my question, my research found that it can get absorbed into the wetlands, but then if there's flooding or disturbance, they can be released in larger amounts.
To carry the sediments away with
As
it.
it carries it away, yeah. And so it actually could end up releasing it in sort of waves rather than a slow trickle. And that was one of the things that sort of lit up a bulb for me to worry about. And what is the concern about that?
Megan, do you have another?
When you said your eye is towards human exposure, if it's an organic material, fish, like the animals that drink from there are absorbing that, people that fish and hunt.
And that's where I think the state has not come up with a surface water standard, because they're doing the risk analysis, of what's the safe level for nematodes or that kind of thing. It's a complicated issue, you know, the whole risk assessment concept, the way the state looks at it right now is, for human health and the environment, that human health is their main focus to prevent exposure, because it's a new contaminant, there's not a lot of ways to manage that.
And it's
Kind of a
forever,
mess.
and it's a forever chemical.
It lasts so long, yeah.
And so that, and we have a number of these landfill sites that we've been working on, that's basically just protect the area around it. And we have a couple sites where we had spray foam or the AFFF foam applied
These
and
airport beds.
contaminated wells. And the only way right now to treat it is really to treat the water that people use. So there's no internal or in situ treatment for it. You can't treat it with some sort of oxygen or something like that now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of smart minds working on that right now, but right now it really is just stopping people from from making it and also using it to prevent it from being spread in the environment. That's the general focus right now.
So, and to address Megan's comment or question of a little earlier, our landfill isn't generating new PFAS.
No.
Whatever you're testing for is whatever was there, however it got there, which no one seems to know,
And-
but
We don't know how long how long it's been there, presumably from the fire, when you had
the dump fire.
the dump fires
Yeah.
out there. Or it's from material that got placed in the landfill.
It happens from decomposing landfill material, basically.
Yeah. So it's, but nothing new is going in, we're
Nothing
still
new is
dealing
going
with what's coming out from what's there. In
And-
addition to whatever PFAS is coming environmentally from the rest of the world.
Would it still be decomposing in there? There's still decomposition
So
happening, correct?
Well, it's the landfill material, my understanding was the last round was fire and there's no sort of organic, it's ash and no organics in there. From what we've read, we've never done any drilling on the site. But from the reports I've read, the depth of the landfill is above the water table. So the groundwater is not necessarily flowing through it, the trash. And that's why you would cap it, to drop the water table to prevent it from flowing through the trash. So those two things, no organic waste and a lower groundwater table, have sort of kept this at bay at the state.
How's it ending up in the test wells if it's going under it though? Cause water, okay. I've
Yeah.
heard that PFAS can travel up to 2 or 3 miles in groundwater and up to 50 miles in surface water. Is that something you can verify?
They've seen that in Minnesota.
Yeah.
3M plant had a release, and of interest, it went from groundwater to surface water and then went back into groundwater.
Interesting. Megan, go ahead.
So I really appreciate the complexity of all of these moving parts that you're, using to make your calculations and recommendations. What would be required? What would be an alarm bell for you as the engineers, where you all would say, okay, this is, you
If
have to do
it was in
something
a
about
neighboring
this.
well, and essentially.
Well, if it was in a neighboring well and you could determine it wasn't coming from their own septic system.
Exactly, right.
If you could
And-
determine that.
And then, but the first order of action would be to put a treatment system on that carbon filter. But there's no remedy, you can't, like, build a wall and keep it on one side of the wall, now you're talking a lot of money.
Yeah.
So there's no chemical way to trace the source,
There's no way to treat it right now.
so
The only treatment technologies they've been doing are ex situ, you pump the contaminated groundwater out of the ground, treat it, and then you put the water back in.
I just mean in terms of tracing, like how can you differentiate PFAS from septic versus PFAS caused by foam?
The different signatures, the AFFF foam has more PFAS, whereas typical signature of a septic system has a wide range of that, but more PFOA. Or another example is the Saint Gobain's plant released more PFOA than PFOS. Those are just two compounds out of thousands.
So if a well were to
We
test,
typically test for about 25. So you can get a general picture that you've got these three contaminants here, and on the others, this other well might have 6 of these, but they don't match.
so you could find a correlation though if enough.
Kind of, but again, they also, as they travel through the formation soil, organic carbon will tend to absorb some more readily than others, so your picture will change as you get further away from the source.
While we have you, can you speak to Roy's observation about the difference in the boundaries of the landfill?
Yes, this boundary is based on a Town of Canterbury dump land survey prepared by G.S. Jackson, dated December 17th, 1987. He drew that on a plan, that's where we got that.
That size.
And the other figure you
Is that
showed-
the larger or the smaller
That's the
version?
smaller one.
Okay.
That's the one we used.
Yeah, the 2007 one, the report said it was found, I'm trying to find it, that it was from digging pits, actual test pits, and see how much larger this one is. This is in the 2007 report. And it was described by the testing engineer.
That's us.
Yeah, it's you, that's what I mean, it was described by.
But not me.
Not you personally, but it was described by whoever did it, if they did test pits and found the landfill.
Right, so that larger is gonna differ from this one in that there is surface trash and et cetera throughout the area. The question is it related to where the landfill area was?
I don't mean,
Yeah.
my personal memory of throwing things into this landfill was that was like all bank that we threw things over, which is why when I saw this, I said, well, that looks actually more correct than that to my memory. The other question I had is about surface water, is that outside
That doesn't
The
appear to be
management-
outside,
zone?
that,
And does the permit say that we can't affect water outside the zone?
but we have a number of groundwater permits throughout the state that have contamination that exceeds the permit limits.
Well, that's what I read in our permit, I'm just trying to verify it.
We can look at revising that. It would just include the southern town of Canterbury property.
You have to make the management zone bigger, basically?
Yeah.
I see.
Alright, it's 7:30, I'm just thinking, Megan, do you have anything further?
No, there was one question.
Faith?
Yes, my concern is that over the past 10 to 15 years, we obviously are seeing increasingly aggressive rainstorms. And I think that there isn't just the risk of PFAS, but also lead and iron. And granted, we do have a lot of iron in wells, but the lead and iron that seems to be coming from the old landfill, it seems to me that there may be some value in thinking about chelating. And I wonder if our engineer could answer that.
Treat the lead,
Yes,
there are treatments for that.
right,
It would not necessarily remove the lead, it would just prevent it from being in the water, so that the lead would be still in the soil. The state, to be honest, what we really do is rely on what the state wants us to do and requires us to do. My number one goal, one of my number one goals here is to be protective of human health and environment, but also to maintain costs for the town. You can recommend a lot of things, but if there isn't a health risk, then.
if lead is in the surface water, obviously it's very easy for it to go where it would like to go. Basically, water goes downhill.
Right, we're just not seeing that go in the down gradient surface water samples. And the state has not required us to do more on that.
It looked to me like the state lost interest when PFAS came in, and they stopped talking about the lead and iron, and as soon as the PFAS testing came in, they started going all over that, and the lead and iron sort of fell by the wayside. They were all very concerned about it before that, they were asking you guys for mitigation steps and this and that. If I could ask one more question.
Go right ahead.
Are these numbers high to you, as in your experience with testing these? I mean, cause when I see, 119 times the standard, 15 parts per trillion, this is up to 1700 and 1800, are those numbers unusually gonna be high?
Much higher than the drinking water standard.
For sure.
But they're consistent with other landfill sites and AFFF foam sites
In
in the
wetlands?
state.
Are there a lot of this happening in wetlands, are a lot of landfills going into them? Sorry, that was 2 questions.
Sorry.
We have sites that have similar.
So that was a big flag for me, is it's a wetland, and they protect wetlands very jealously in this state, and especially when we're trying to be stewards of the environment and all of that. So that was another thing that it seemed to make everything much more complicated, is the other part of the state that looks at wetlands, looking at this part of the state that's looking at PFAS, and are they communicating, and is that gonna blow up in our face when somebody else finds, So, I didn't mean to turn that into a speech.
No worries, yeah. Faith, anything else from you?
No, it's more, and I'm as concerned about the lead as I am about the PFAS.
Yeah.
I think all of it needs to be something that we continue to really monitor very
Yeah.
closely, because when it spreads, it's too late. And the wetlands are supposed to be cleaning our water, cleaning our environment, but if we're contaminating them, how good a job are we doing?
regarding timing, I'll have to guess. I mean, I went through the state file for their responses to us, and there were only 3 or 4 since 2018. And mostly it were simple emails about, hey, we can't sample in November because of the rain, we're gonna come in December, or something like that. Our next big sampling event out at the landfill is 2026, in November, and I think we sampled the residential well, plus all the wells and surface water, and I think every surface water sample. So, I would anticipate that at that time, the state will look at our permit and then review it. But to be honest, they have a lot of other much worse case, sites out there, it's a fairly low priority for them.
Alright, Evan, you're not here for this, are you? Okay, just wanted to make sure. Alright, Rich,
Related to it, in terms of trust, here, in terms of any, I guess Ken had said that the thing would keep, the feasibility and sustainability study, he was waiting for the numbers from Unitil,
We have those now.
and you have them now,
Yeah.
so.
So we're working, so that's the other side of the equation. We're working on sort of a cost benefit or just cost for different options. One is having Casella pick up door to door, have Casella run the transfer station. Look at a new site transfer station, buy a new compactor truck and just go that route. We got the quote for getting a 3-phase to the site so that we can put in a real compactor and a new baler. Get a generator for, instead, if you can't, see if the generator's cheaper to run that than to buy the truck, and run the compactor site. So all those things, we're in the process of getting those numbers together. Your question is, when are we gonna see that? I'm hopeful that we'll have it in a couple weeks.
okay, very good.
That's. And also, I sent an email out to the town electrician. I haven't heard back from him, but I sent him a couple things, so.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
I'll try and poke them a little bit.
Alright. Alright.
Alright, thank you all for your time.
Alrighty, thank you.
Alright, where are we going from here, Ken?
Well, if you wanna go to, you have a lot to sign,
Yes, we do.
you wanna, Evan, do you have something
Alright.
you want?
Nope.
Alright,
Okay, cool.
Alrighty, thank you.
Alright. 2BC. Alright. So first item is, looks like an accounts payable manifest in the amount of $35,814.44.
So moved.
I'll second, all those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Back at you. Alright, next, looks like a payroll manifest in the amount of $72,352.37.
I'm sorry, what was that again, please? 72?
72.
Yeah.
352.
Yeah.
37.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to throw that at you.
Thank you. Alright, next item is an interfund transfer for, to TD Bank Conservation Commission Fund from TD Bank operating in the amount of $13,998 even.
Ooh, so moved.
Alright, anything to add on
So
that?
land use change.
Yeah. And we don't need to make a motion on it, though. Yeah, we just sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pardon?
We have a lot of money in that now.
Yeah, nice.
Alright, next item is an appointment slip for Beth McGuinn to Community Power.
Yes. Oh, do we have to, no, we just signed.
No, we just, yeah.
Okay. Edgar and Beth seem to work really well together and are
No surprise.
I think it's going to be a good information
Yeah,
flow from the
yeah.
state to the
Yeah.
back to the town.
Alright,
For other
next.
projects.
Right. Next is appointment slip for Edgar Rivera to
Yeah.
Community Power.
I don't know. Okay. Thank you, Edgar.
Yes, thank you, Edgar.
While we are on for half a second on community power, we made Beth the EOP or the AOP or whichever it was. Do we need to formally make you not the alternate
Whatever I
anymore?
was.
You were
That's a
the alternate,
Great question, actually. Maybe.
because
I don't think so.
we don't need
okay.
to,
When you,
You appointed Edgar as alternate.
So Edgar
Okay.
will just
yeah,
replace
so,
me.
yeah, just, yeah.
Super,
Okay.
okay.
I just didn't know if we had to make
Yeah.
that official.
That's a good thought. Thank you.
Okay.
Alright, next is a notice of intent to cut water timber for map 236, lot 17, Intervale Road.
Didn't we just have one on Intervale?
I think, yeah, we've had,
I think the last one was Baptist Hill.
Okay.
yeah, that, right.
I thought recently we had another
But
one
I
on
think we, yeah, I think we have.
Oh, that's a big piece of property. Oh, thank you. Wool gathering.
Been a long evening. Alright, next is an abatement of taxes for the property of Moira Campbell at 236 Old Tilton Road in the amount of $201. And the note from Mandy is corrected the unfinished status of the second floor. So it just reduced her taxable value. Everything's here, we don't need a motion, just signature, yeah.
So she did finish the second floor or
She
didn't?
did not. It-
Oh,
right,
okay,
it
she was going to
apparently
but
had
didn't.
her as, right, as
Got
having
it.
a finished second floor, and it is in fact unfinished.
Got it.
Why do they not need to make a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was an abatement, yes, you do need a motion.
Okay, so I will make a motion that we abate by
Thank you, Cal.
$201 the taxes of Moira Campbell at 236 Old Tilton Road to correct the unfinished status of the second floor.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, back
Now,
at you.
now we can.
Thank you.
You have to sign
Cal,
again.
for keeping us honest.
Yes.
Cause the next one requires it, so.
Gotcha. Oh, this is a lot of information.
Okay.
Alright. Alright, so the next item is another abatement request, and it is from the Religious Society of Friends. And there's a note from Mandy,
Quaker meeting.
That's a Quaker meeting, I was
Quaker
gonna say
meeting,
Oxbow,
thank
yeah.
Although they call themselves the Religious Society of
Yeah.
Friends. So it says the land and buildings located at 11 Oxbow Pond Road
Yeah.
have historically been granted a religious exemption. In order to receive the tax exemption annually, they must file a BTLA A9 form no later than April 15th. And it looks like they did not do that, I'm assuming.
They did, but not on time.
Gotcha.
And we've granted that for other, so long as historically they've been on time.
Yes, and I'll let each of you read
Oh, okay.
the paragraph there, it gives a pretty clear explanation.
Okay. Okay, so that's that, Concord.
Good thing we started at 5 today.
If only we played one more week, you know?
So he's been
So,
historically on time. This
Correct.
was, and then we have to, should we read his explanation as to whether we decide it's accident, mistake, or misfortune? I don't see his handwritten, we don't have that, do we? Is it here? I'm just not seeing it. Oh wait, here we go. Test the circumstances. Failed to provide note. There's the explanation. Well, we've all done that,
I was thinking the same thing.
and there's been other people who have come to be for us who have not filed this form in a timely fashion, but have done it consistently.
Yeah.
If this is the first time, I would grant it.
Agreed. Yeah,
Okay.
alright, so,
Only if approved, do we
Right.
sign that?
yeah,
Alright.
so I'm gonna make a motion that we grant the abatement for 11 Oxbow Pond Road. And as Beth said, this appears to be a one-time oversight, so looking for a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, so that's approved.
But we will mark on our calendar if it's late next year.
That she says only. Alright, two places to sign.
Period's the important part. That's how you know it's me.
I think it's the squiggle for me.
Like a seismograph.
Alright. This back in order.
Speaking of which, while you're putting things in order, anybody should check the library's Strawberry Shake, is it called? The seismograph at the library?
Oh, yeah.
It's great.
Yeah,
They
yes,
put,
it
they
is.
post the, a raspberry shake, I guess.
Right. Alright, I think that's everything we've got to sign, so that brings us to minutes. And why don't we start
Oh
with,
shoot, I think I mushed all mine in with everything else that. I'll pay attention, I think most of the changes were probably from me.
I'm sorry,
We only have one set tonight.
okay, oh, that's it? Well, that's easy.
Was some changes.
I do see
got
that,
it.
go ahead, Cal.
Alright, line 19,
Yep.
correcting $1,700 to $1,789, and adding from the 2022 tax bill.
Okay,
Line 57, adding to the end of the sentence that it reads, so it uses electricity to run the hydraulics instead of needing to keep the engine running.
Yep.
Then there's a grammatical one further down the page.
Yep.
Line 103 is the next substantial. Striking the sentence, the area in front of CES often gets backed up, and changing it to, the traffic is a problem along Baptist Road as you approach CES from the center. There's no line of sight when trying to pass line of cars waiting to enter the school property.
okay,
Line 110, crossing out HVAC and changing it to mini splits / heat pumps. Line 114, changing it to read and see what improvements have been / could be made. Line 145, changing unnecessary to not advised.
okay,
Line 175, adding the solid waste committee's grievances with her and with commentary from the select board at the 5/19 meeting. Line 186, changing the sentence to be unable to find evidence of how the solid waste committee changed their focus from upgrading the transfer station to their current focus on relocating and building a new transfer station. And that is it.
alright. I'll make a motion to accept as amended,
I will second that.
all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
And we can keep these, right?
Yes, you can.
Alright, that's that, so Ken, I believe we're at new business?
Yes. And then, this is a letter, we got a request from, the attorneys representing, the farm at the end of West Road. They are in the process of trying to buy the property next door, the brick house at 160, West Road. Similar to when they refinanced, when Brooklyn Farm refinanced, because of the grant from NOAA, they need consent from the town that they buy this property. So I have a letter here, I have the tax card for that property, if anybody's interested in looking at it. I did talk to Mandy, who visited the property a little while ago, just a couple months ago, or a month ago. The building is semi-habitable, does have power, water, and sewer. However, it's been under construction, interior gut part of it, and the upstairs suffered some significant fire damage several years ago. It has not been repaired, but that's just I think depending on if the sale goes through, then I guess we would ask Brooklyn Farm what the intent is for the building and make sure they seek all permits and make sure it's up to code. So I have.
Well, yeah, I
a
would
letter-
definitely say from the amount of damage that you described and the part of it that's being lived in.
Yeah.
I think we wanna make very sure that this is,
So I have a
habitable.
letter here, this is, it was drafted and for you guys to sign.
but that, any concerns we might have about it being inspected before people actually move in and live in is separate from this.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
You're just, because of the, you're involved because of the grant and
Right.
during, after the sale and the conservation easement that was put on.
This is actually not the house I thought it was, this is the one that's really at the end, right
The
before
very
where
end
the
on the
bridge
left-hand
used to
side.
be.
That's it.
Yeah, I
Yep,
recognize the
Yep,
Yes.
end of it,
yeah, it's very unique.
it is. I wish
You
they,
had
It was built, I think if you look at it, it was built in 1790.
yeah, that's what you said. I wish they would, it would be nice if that would be restored, but
Yeah, 17.
I don't know. No,
Amazing, I would not have guessed it.
it would, the work involved in that would be crazy,
Money.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, well,
Thank you.
yes.
Alright, there's that, alright. Anybody got any other new business?
I don't think so.
I went to the school board meeting. I can't, until I'm on the agenda, I can't address our questions. If that makes
I
sense.
understand on their
Okay.
agenda.
It's on their agenda,
Yeah.
so I did go though, attended it, got the highlights, it was a quick meeting, it was only 30 minutes.
Okay,
So, yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it, so next meeting in Canterbury will be in August.
Yep.
So I'll attend that one with our questions and concerns, and I'll be on the agenda for that.
very good, okay, sounds good, thank you. On to old business code of conduct.
I'm realizing that I didn't print it out for you guys today.
So I'm gonna
Do we have
Print
it?
it out?
Do we have
print it
a,
out. I printed out one copy.
can we print, we've got a printer right here, not that long.
Well, I think I made a few more changes
Oh, okay.
today.
Do you
okay.
wanna,
Design.
do you wanna send it to us out again electronically to highlight the changes that we should be aware of? Would that be more,
Cause I have the changes here.
oh, alright,
This is the last draft was on 6/2.
hold on, if you could give me half a second to pull it up, because I think I've got all my changes here, and then I sat with Cal, today and looked at it quickly. So, let me see if I can get there. Did you send, can I find it this way?
did send you the newest one this afternoon. Didn't I?
5-1, that doesn't help.
No, I
This
sent you
is-
bylaws, never mind.
6:13.
Right, this is one you sent the other day.
No, I sent my comments,
I made some more
code of
changes today.
conduct,
Oh, you did? Oh,
in a
okay.
And I forgot to print that
Monday's
out.
agenda.
Okay, alright,
So
alright.
Alright,
maybe
Yeah.
I just electronically send it, I would like to know your,
Yeah, I mean, most of the changes that I saw were changing they to you and
yep, that was one of the.
and then wait for on page 3, wait for all information, do not make statements. Again, changing they to you, and then recuse yourself, not themselves. And then combining all board chairs have a responsibility to, and then you combine 1, 2, 3, and 4 together to be one sentence.
And I made a whole bunch more changes, comments. On top of that, I'm sorry, you ask for comments, you get comments.
Don't
You,
ask
do you want me to? Do you
alright,
wanna hear my, no, cause,
No, we'll do it one more time.
One more
Send it
time.
out,
yeah,
Cause I don't wanna take up.
sorry,
no worries,
just
we'll,
don't ask,
we'll come back to
if
it.
you don't wanna know.
I will ask in the, I guess, essence of, time management.
Yeah.
This is a living document.
Okay.
It can be changed at any time.
Okay,
I think it's important that we get this out as soon as possible,
I agree.
that's all.
Can we, my changes, I don't believe were substantive, and when I look through the entirety of the document, I can't see having anything else. So if it all goes out and we look at it, can we just all send our commentary back to you or Cal and go from there, or do we have to?
Cannot make a decision via email
No,
to approve it.
okay,
You can
So we
send
can
your
do that
com-
on
You
our-
can send your comments individually back to
Yeah, yeah.
myself and Cal to have us re-edit it, but any decision on the final product has to come at a meeting.
I give you permission not to send it to me, I've made all my comments, and we can approve at the
Next meeting.
the next
Okay.
meeting. I think we should put on the agenda to approve, not just to.
Right, agreed, yeah,
Okay,
'cause we'll
that'll
all
be-
go. Okay, alright, 2 more weeks.
Timely, very timely.
Yeah, and, alright, so Shell Meeting House Road,
So, at the meeting in May, or April, I guess it was May, we talked about Shell Meeting House Road.
Yep.
I guess it was late March, and then the 1st of May, we talked about it again. Calvin had some questions, he was gonna do some more research on it.
Yep.
Talked about talking to the planning board and bringing up, I received another call from the gentleman that had complained the last time about the locked gate. And at the meeting in May, I guess, no, at the meeting on April 21st, you instructed me to write a letter asking the Mees to remove the lock.
Yep.
I did not, I held off after I talked to Calvin, and we talked about it again in May. Again, I received another complaint House Road was discontinued at the town meeting in 1928. However, we have no records of property owners being notified of the discontinuance. Our town council recommended to the Board of Selectmen in 2016 that if we couldn't find appropriate records that indicate all legal requirements have been followed, the town should consider any and all discontinued roads as town roads. The Board of Selectmen have followed this advice. The Board of Selectmen are working on this issue as it affects multiple roads. Until this matter is resolved, the town asks the lock be removed. The alternative is for you to provide proof that all conditions that would allow the road to be discontinued have been met. Please feel free to contact me with any questions. I signed it, asking if that's okay, if I can send that out to the Lees. Again, I think it's following past precedent where if you look at Wyven Road, there was a question whether it was private, whether it was not. You got proof to your satisfaction that it was a private road, so if the Mees can show you proof that this was a discontinued road and all the legal procedures were followed, you can say, yes, it was discontinued. I've talked with Calvin about this, and I think it would probably be the easiest and most efficient thing to do would be to bring up 4 or 5 of these roads at town meeting to reaffirm that they are discontinued, and using the ones that are on our town map as listed discontinued, and then work our way through others as we get the priority ones taken care of.
Yeah.
So.
Makes sense to me.
My only comment to Ken when when we talked about this letter this morning was that at that time, make it painfully clear what discontinuance means. Cause I don't think people will vote one way or the other, not really understanding it. And if we send letters to abutters or to anything like that, that we need to make sure that all the references are very clear.
Yeah.
Just so nobody misunderstands and then says later, that they weren't told.
Right.
And then it's part of the record too, what does this mean, what are you agreeing to?
Yeah.
And that's all, I think, otherwise, I think that's a perfectly, good way to deal with that road.
Yeah.
And the complaints about the gate.
We will make sure that this is part of our preparations for town meeting in 2026.
Cal, if you could start putting the binders for 2026 together now, that would be page 1, thank you very much.
All you would need for, I guess, supporting documents would be a deed reflecting it. It could be something as simple as that. It doesn't have to be
That's what
cases
Calvin
and
talked
legal
about.
stuff.
Yeah.
Because if somebody's deed reflects that they have access via this discontinued road, then that would show that was, the steps were followed.
Yeah, no, that's fine,
I think we're all in agreement?
yes.
Okay,
And as I mentioned to Ken, he writes a good letter.
yes, he does. It's a practice, I'm guessing. Yes.
Where does one take a business writing course?
I think you learn on the job with OJT.
I did take, part of my certified public manager classes.
Okay.
Was business writing.
Yeah, there you go. All right, I think that brings us to the sale of town-owned property.
Yes.
220 lot 2 to Brian Magoo.
Yes, so we had a request from the title company, Absolute Title. They had some concerns about the deed. We sent them all the information we have. They called us back and said that some of the letters that were signed by the heirs, because we had to send letters out to all the heirs and have them
Yeah.
notarized. Some were not dated, some were not signed correctly, some, the notary didn't sign them, so there was some problems with those. But the biggest problem is that, the person that owned the property, when they passed away, they were in Massachusetts, they were resident of Massachusetts, and there's no documentation that probate was done. And this property was not part of a trust that they had, so probate had to be done, and there's no, they went through all the records that they could find for probate in Massachusetts, and there's no probate done on this person, so, the option is for the sale of this property, that the town either sells it, and knowing that the title is not clear, the town can spend the money to quiet the title. One of the cost of making a title quiet is between $5,000 and $10,000, it could take up to 6 months. The realtor has made a potential offer that if the Board of Selectmen reduce the sale price of the property by up to $10,000, and again, your decision between 5 and 10,000, that the potential buyer might still purchase the property and use that reduction in cost to fund the quiet title itself. So, the realtor was going to ask Brian if that was reasonable, and I haven't gotten anything saying whether that's an offer or not. That was one of the offers that we made. I did tell them that I would ask you guys about it, and if you thought that you could potentially do that, then I would make that offer, and say yes, the selectmen are agreeable, or no, the selectmen are not agreeable.
I would
To
entertain that.
negotiate.
I would want to know a little bit more clearly whether it's 5 or 10.
And that's what
Yeah.
I told the realtor, that we would have to have some kind of solid number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we can investigate that on our own.
Wouldn't that just kind of be a roll the dice, depending on litigation and who they found to protest it? I mean, it could be a $30,000 lawsuit to quiet the title.
Oh.
That's the thing, is it's litigation, it's not just filling out paperwork and walking away.
Right, that's why it takes up to 6 months to potentially do it. It has to be listed, has to be posted in the newspaper, you know, there's a process.
Yeah.
but I guess I'm not quite clear, I mean, the property was left in a disorganized fashion and, you know, things weren't signed or whatever, but why do we have to quiet the title to sell it as opposed
So
to
we
just?
don't, we can sell it as is.
Oh, we don't, okay,
We
it would
don't.
be, okay, that's what I thought,
Right, we don't have to quiet the title. We can sell it as is.
and then Brian would have to worry about
and
it,
the purchaser knows
or
there
whoever
might be
purchases it, yeah,
a problem with it, and it's up to them to clear up the problem.
got it. Yeah, I still, if we have a firm number, because this is still, what, even if we reduce the price by $10,000, what does the town stand to profit from the sale of this piece of property?
He offered us $125,000 for it.
For property that was gifted to the town,
Right, but
So-
it gets it back on the tax rolls,
yeah,
so.
no one else wanted it, and,
The town did not wanna take it
Yeah.
in the first place,
Right,
but the family said that they were just gonna stop paying taxes on it.
yeah,
The
so,
town would have ended up with it anyway, so that's why the Board of Selectmen agreed to
yeah,
take the gift.
Yeah.
Cause it was easier to do it that way, we thought,
yeah,
than to take it by taxes.
I still say if we can get a firm number, it would certainly be worth our while to consider that, but
or do we
That's
just reduce the price and sell it as is?
I would just, morally, I'd feel horrible if it turned into something bigger than it
I know,
was. But I know that's, as
Yeah.
the purchaser, that's the risk you're taking by, with that proposal, I just.
Yeah, and I, you know, I think that, any purchaser, you know, if they're aware of the potential problems, then that's up to them whether they decide to take a chance or not. that's what the realtor expressed to me, and I said, yeah,
I mean,
said,
we
"But
could- we
But the
could-
town isn't gonna spend $10,000 to quiet the title.
No.
A piece of land that was given to us, we're not, you know, I wouldn't think, I mean, unless you guys wanna go that route.
No, I do not believe so, but it seems, I mean, it still seems like, we're not, we could just sell it and say, forget, you know, you bear the cost, we're still gonna get the original price, but I think, you know, we're doing a duty to a citizen who's going to be buying a piece of property that otherwise the town can't use, and he can, and will be willing to bend a little bit for that. But, again, I wouldn't just say $10,000 if it's gonna be 5. Not that, quite that generous.
Okay, so I will communicate back to them that you're agreeable to negotiations, and we need to come up with a firm number.
That's okay by all means,
I think that's a.
seems reasonable.
Yes, agreed.
Alright, and, 2 other things that didn't make the list, I guess this should have been I guess this is old business. You got a thank you letter from CASA
Oh,
for the
no,
donation,
Good,
very nice letter.
good deal.
I'll have it here if you
Thank
guys
you.
wanna look at it. And then the last thing that I have is, you all received
Saw
a
that,
copy
yeah.
of the P and L, the
Yeah,
profit and loss.
Yeah, got it.
I went through it, there are some budgets that are a concern,
I saw that.
however, I think, you know, if you, I guess I would ask you to look at it,
Yep,
and if you have any questions, shoot me an email,
yeah,
and I'll explain it,
okay.
and just do it individually.
Yep.
I will send out an email either tomorrow or, Wednesday on what I found and concerns that I might have,
Okay,
and some explanations.
yep,
There's, you know, some of the Sand Lake maintenance is over, and, so is the municipal building maintenance, so I'll send out some explanations on that.
very good.
Can you CC me on all of those and add to the binder?
and this is what we got tonight, I've got like all these things shoved in here, this is January 1st through June 12th, yes, that's tonight's,
Yeah.
okay,
That's it.
alrighty,
Alright,
I put it in there and
And I
close it
have
off.
a meeting tomorrow, Scott, you're gonna be there tomorrow at 10:30 in the morning?
yes, that's oh yeah, actually, that was the one thing I wanted to confirm with you, was the 10:30.
10:30 tomorrow morning at the
Yes.
Sand Lake House.
I'll be there.
And that's to go see Concord Behavioral,
That, yeah, 367 Shake Road,
okay,
zoning.
Yeah. Yep, I've got it in my calendar, so.
okay, and then, when is I've got it in here, but just so I make sure, the award ceremony at the school is
That is-
Thursday, 8:45 AM.
Thursday, 8:45, Thursday.
Exactly
I keep
right.
going to say Tuesday, but I know it's Thursday.
Cause that's big truck day or something.
Yep, they're right, Thursday,
Another
8:45 AM,
But my kid's
No,
been reminding
Thursday,
me
the
for
big
weeks.
truck day is the next,
right. Yeah, next week, yeah,
Yeah, Thursdays, that's when everything happens in town,
yeah, it
followed
seems
by
to
the
be.
concert.
I've got it
Right.
8:30 AM, but it's 8:45.
8:45, they.
I'm gonna put it at 8:30, cause then I'll,
Yeah, you
Be
get
early.
better
Get there on
parking.
Yeah, well, yeah, that is gonna be,
Yeah.
I'm gonna park at the firehouse and walk
Walk.
down,
yeah,
that works.
no, I don't walk to select board meetings. Thank you,
Alright, anything further?
it is.
Otherwise, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I think I would second that.
Alright, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned.
I always think of, it's like hanging up the phone, I hang up the phone and I think of like 4 more questions.